Waiting for someone? Lu Tianshang was taken aback, followed by a laugh, and asked in a derisive tone. Could it be that you have called for backup? He did not hurry as he was displeased. Just what kind of backup could Yi Lingchen call for? A friend of mine. We made an appointment tonight, answered Yi Lingchen calmly. Ha ha ha, friend? Lu Hao burst out laughing maniacally. If your friend knew of the situation you're in now, would he still dare come over? Whoever that comes to your aid tonight, it's useless. Oh, the Lu family is really imposing, it seems. A low voice boomed across from the door, accompanied by the sounds of laid-back footsteps. Lu Tianshang's heart skipped a beat upon hearing that voice. When he saw the figure that reached the door, it sent a shiver across his entire body. His pupils tightened, giving him a shocked look. Yi Lingchen similarly looked outside. Lin Shanhe came in person, with others from the Lin family behind him. That included Lin Ruoyu and Lin Ao. They strolled in casually as if taking a walk around a park, paying no heed to the bodyguards with machetes. Lu Tianshang, who was acting high and mighty just a moment before, put on the biggest smile he could and approached with the intention to brown-nose his new guests. Mr. Lin, what brings you here? If I knew that you will be visiting, I would have prepared the best banquet to greet you with. Please forgive me for the lack of preparation. Lu Hao, on the other hand, kept his body bent and lowered his head, being exceptionally humble. He may act with impunity, but he was not stupid. As the sole heir of Lu Group, he was well educated, especially on interpersonal skills. Otherwise, he would still empty his family coffers no matter how big it was. When evaluating people, he always had a scale in his heart. Who he could toy with, who to cross, who not to cross, and also who to suck up to. All these factors were clearly laid out in his head. Lin was one he had to suck up to at all costs, so much so that he dreamt of just following behind Lin Ruoyu, willing to be a bootlicker for life. All that was due to the Lin having strong backing, too strong for him to compare. An average person could get rich or even become a star. Above that would be a familial influence, especially those with centuries, or even millennia worth of foundations. However, no matter how influential the family can grow, it was still susceptible to three types of forces. First of all, political power. No matter the funding, one cannot fight authority. Secondly, beyond all power, and that was the color of red. Red here is referring to the army, representing the fundamental strength of the country. Although the average person would never come in contact with this power, it was still one that should never be crossed with. Thirdly, was the Warriors Association Training Department, also known as Warriors Department. The Warriors Department was founded not long ago, and even though it was not an official organization, it still managed to obtain immense recognition by the country. Following the widespread popularity of Chinese Kung Fu within the people, martial arts started trending, leading to the founding of the Warriors Department. To put it simply, the Warriors Department could be regarded as a dojo. The difference was, this dojo spread throughout the entire country with a strong influence. At its roots, it also carried the responsibility of protecting the country. Those within it were all men and women who held great mastery over martial arts, given the honorable title of martial artists. Every one of them had incomparable strength, not to be trifled with. Sometimes, the Warriors Department would even carry out some special missions, therefore granting them certain privileges. Grandfather Lin from the Lin family was such a person. He went through those missions, risking his life through a rain of bullets. To be frank, if he stomped the ground, the nobilities in capital would all tremble. Apart from Grandfather Lin, there was also Lin Ao, an upper-class warrior amongst martial artists with a promising future ahead of him. It was exactly because of him coming in contact with such powers that Lu Tianshang understood how scary such powers could be. The Lu family might be strong, but it originated from illegal beginnings. The dirty business in their past was beyond tally, with no hopes of cleaning up their trail for good. If they were to offend the Lin family, the entire Lu family would be decimated immediately without even knowing how it happened. How could Lu Tianshang not feel scared? Witnessing the Lu family trying their best at fawning, everyone in the hall went pale from the shock, afraid to even breathe loudly. The Lin family had a special status and standing. The average person would not understand, but through indirect observation, they could surmise that the Lin family was definitely extremely prestigious. I'm here today to pick up Grandmaster Ye, Lin Shanhe calmly announced without addressing Lu Tianshang directly. Their differences were just too much, incomparable. Grandmaster Ye? Lu Tianshang's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect there to be such an important person here. Other than grandfather Lin, the important people from the second and third generation of the Lin family all showed up to welcome this person. He must have a status as high as the heavens. At the same time, he was quietly feeling troubled. Such an important person was in close proximity to himself, and he did not receive any news at all. Else he could have tried to get himself acquainted. By that point, who else would Lu family be afraid of? Lin Ao stepped forward, and then announced courteously, "Grandmaster Ye, we're here to welcome you." Could it be? Grandmaster Ye was hidden in here? Lu Tianshang's face flushed red with excitement, raising his head to look around. He must remember how Grandmaster Ye looks like so that he could suck up to him immediately the next time he meets him. Within the hall, everyone was also looking around. Who would not want to have the chance to see such an important person? The scene was silent. Yi Lingchen walked forward slowly with a stoic expression. "Lingchen, don't be hot-headed now." Xiao Feifei's face went pale as she held onto Yi Lingchen, reminding him. "My friend is here to pick me up, I should be going." Yi Lingchen smiled, then continued going as Xiao Feifei stared at him, dumbfounded. His movements immediately attracted the attention of everyone. This kid, did he not understand the situation? Could it be that he was still trying to bullshit in such a situation? Lu Tianshang was stupefied. He did not expect such a rare kind of human to exist in this world. He was not afraid of death, not the slightest bit afraid. No wonder he dared to squawk at him. This guy was a moron. For such a person to have survived to this age, it was a miracle. He was already imagining in his mind how the Lin family would deal with Yi Lingchen. However, everyone from the Lin family, led by Lin Shanhe, excitedly moved towards Yi Lingchen. They all lowered their heads, with a humble tone, respectfully announced, "Grandmaster Ye." Boom. Mind blown. Lu Tianshang's mind went blank while his ears were ringing. Drenched in a cold sweat, he almost passed out. Lu Hao instead landed on his buttocks, trembling in fear, his eyes unable to focus. He recalled how he was showing off in front of Yi Lingchen earlier and felt that his future was filled with nothing but darkness. "You piece of shit, this is all because of you. This time we've dug our own graves." Lu Tianshang sighed in despair, almost vomiting blood. He had reminded Lu Hao repeatedly that he should always investigate a person's background thoroughly before doing anything. Only after that could he act with impunity. However, this day was clearly their doom. "Bah, I didn't know that he was Grandmaster Yi. If I had known, I wouldn't have dared to even let out a fart in front of him even if you gave me all the courage in the world." Lu Hao was petrified by fear. His eyes teared up, and his face filled with hopelessness. This Grandmaster Yi was a weirdo. To be such an important person, yet dressed up in a penniless fashion. That was nothing short of a massive troll. "Grandmaster Yi, are you troubled? Do you need my help?" Lin Shanhe asked with a smile on his face. Yi Lingchen quietly glanced at the Lu family duo, trouble-wise. "Yes, slightly." "Grandmaster Yi, we're sorry. Please forgive our insolence against you earlier." Lu Tianshang trembled with fear. With a thud, he knelt on the floor and started kowtowing towards Yi Lingchen. To kneel in public was humiliating, especially when one had the position and power of Lu Tianshang. Yet Lu Tianshang knew full well that he had to kneel. Not only that, but he also had to present it as sincerely as possible. Lu Hao followed suit. His tears flowed as he kowtowed and begged, "Grandmaster Yi, I was blind to not recognize your greatness. Please show your generous grace and let me off as a passing wind." Yi Lingchen mischievously looked at the two of them. He must admit that Lu Tianshang had some capability to have made it this far in life, knowing when to yield when necessary. As for the others, their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets from staring, mouths agape, unable to remain shut. This twist and turns of this plot proved to be beyond their brain circuitry to follow. The Lu family father and son duo was begging on the floor like a pair of dogs. This situation was something they could not even dream of. Director Li stared at Yi Lingchen, his heart washed over by a wave of anxiety, thanking the heavens to think that he had such a powerhouse backing him. "Luckily I've treated him courteously all these while." Xiao Feifei's pretty eyes opened wide and placed her hand over her mouth in astonishment, amazed by the revelation. "Young Master Lu, I remember that you mixed a glass of liquor." Yi Lingchen shifted his gaze to Lu Hao. "Grandmaster Yi, you can just call me Lu." Lu Hao replied while trying to squeeze out a smile on his swollen pig-like face. Go fetch it over. Lu Hao immediately retrieved the glass of liquor from the table in a respectful manner, not daring to delay for the slightest bit. Yi Lingchen observed Lu Hao calmly. This liquor, who is it for? Lu Hao's head was filled with cold sweat, his hands trembled as he held onto the glass. This is for me, just the way I like it. Show me, of course. Thank you, Grandmaster Ye, for the liquor. Having said that, Lu Hao immediately tilted his head backward and shoved the entire glass contents down his throat. The extreme burn from the alcohol assaulted his throat, causing him intolerable pain. Yet he did not dare stop, nor let a single drop leak from his mouth. His face scrunched up as he drank the entire glass clean. Grandmaster Ye, I won't do this again. Can you please forgive me, please? Lu Hao continued to kowtow, his head knocking hard on the floor's surface. Just from the knocking sound, one could feel the pain. He knew that Lu family's survival depended on Yi Lingchen's whims at that point. If at that moment they showed any signs of insincerity, the Lu family would be done for. Why are you guys standing there stupidly? Your knives had frightened Grandmaster Yi. All of you kneel, Lu Tianshang shouted at the 20 over underlings he brought along. In the next moment, 20 over people knelt down at the same time, spoke up together. We humbly ask for Grandmaster Yi's forgiveness. The scene was majestic, a stunning sight that silenced many. It's too bad that we don't have a camera here. Even in a movie, you could not create this majestic aura, Director Li sighed in resignation. That'll be all for now. If you dare harass Xiao Feifei in the future, then you'll have to pay with your life, said Yi Lingchen with a wave of his hand. I'll never do that again, Grandmaster Yi can rest assured. From now on Xiao Feifei will be my grandaunt. Lu Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Even if someone were to lend him all the courage in the world, he would never do this again. Oh, right. What's that Wu family troop thing? It offends me. You settle it as you see fit, Yi Lingchen reminded him as he turned around and left. Rest assured Grandmaster Yi. I will deal with Wu Feng with a heavy hand. The Wu family troop will cease to exist. Lu Tianshang immediately guaranteed with his eyes locked on Wu Feng. A big part of this incident was started by Wu Feng. Even if Yi Lingchen let Wu Feng off the hook, he would never let him off. Wu Feng's expression was ashen, hopelessly despairing on the ground. Yi Lingchen nodded in acknowledgement, then followed Lin Shanhe out of the door. On the other hand, Lin Ao walked up to Lu Tianshang and his son. In a mischievous tone, he asked, Lu Tianshang, what's wrong with your son's face? I slapped him. This good-for-nothing always causes trouble, clearly lacking discipline. This was my doing, Lu Tianshang replied quickly. This is my first time seeing someone being hit to this extent. Could you give me a demonstration? Lin Ao said coldly. Yi Lingchen may have gotten over this, but he had yet to. This Lu family father and son duo delayed Yi Lingchen's treatment for grandfather Lin. It was no different from seeking death. If anything were to happen to grandfather Lin, even the destruction of the entire Lu group would still be insufficient to make up for it. To let them live was already an extremely generous act. Yes, yes. Lu Tianshang nodded his head repeatedly and without any delay, started slapping away at Lu Hao. Smack, smack, smack. He dared not go easy on the slaps. Lu Hao's face swelled up yet another 30%. Next time, keep your eyes open. Grandmaster Yi is a VIP of the Lin family. He is beyond you. Lin Ao finally left after leaving the message. Outside Capital Restaurant, there were 3 cars. These 3 cars were different from others. They did not park at the parking lot but instead parked right outside the restaurant's front door with impunity. The restaurant owner dared not do anything, but instead personally stood guard right beside the 3 cars. These 3 cars were not some high-class sports car. However, their license plate all started with the Wu one-foot character. One of them was an off-road Jeep. This car, it's fearsome, Yi Lingchen exclaimed while looking at the Jeep. This type of car was definitely had a tyrant-like existence on the road. It would be considered a tank when compared to other cars. Even Lamborghinis and the like would have to make way for it. I purposely remodeled this car. Acceleration, off-road ability, and durability are all excellent. I've tested it. The wall of a normal house could be rammed straight through without suffering a scratch. Lin Ao asked with pride, Grandmaster Yi, would you like to try riding in it? Why not? Yi Lingchen nodded, then hopped into the car. The car was tall. When sitting within, it gave off an elated feeling of looking down on smaller cars. Moreover, the inside was spacious and not cramped. Sit tight. Lin Ao not only showed off his car, but also his driving skills. He sped all the way, with the scenes on both sides rushing into a blur streaking pass. The cars on the road all gave way, none daring to be in the way of this behemoth. Nice. Nice car. Yi Lingchen was astonished. Lin Ao drove at crazy speeds, and he even chose to go through inner roads for shortcuts. However, within the car, it was surprisingly steady without any bumpiness despite driving through bumpy roads. He guessed that even if this car had to go uphill it would feel like flat land. Sitting in the car provided him a sense of security. This car's durability was top of the line. It was very likely for it to be bulletproof as well. Oh right. Grandmaster Ye, since you're so good at fighting, have you thought of joining the warriors department? Lin Ao asked suddenly, staring at Yi Lingchen with passion burning in his eyes. Joining the warriors department? Not at all, Yi Lingchen answered firmly, shaking his head. Why not? Lin Ao asked in a loud voice, you're young, and this is the best time to join the warriors department. Moreover, being such a good fighter, you will be able to build your career with a promising future. I just want to live my life in peace and accompany those close to me, Yi Lingchen gave a composed reply. Hey, Lin Ao sneered, obviously unsatisfied with the answer. He was a martial artist. Mincing words was not his forte. If the country is not stable, how would you live peacefully? You think that the world is very peaceful now? Lin Ao spoke from experience. Our country's border is stretched far and wide, filled with resources. Who wouldn't be jealous of such abundance? In recent years, Rice country had continuously played up issues in food, technology, and tariffs. Yet many people are claiming that times are good. Yi Lingchen remained silent. He was not stupid. There were many issues, but he just chose to ignore them subconsciously. After I joined the Warriors department at 17, I had not returned home for a total of 3 years. Now I'm 25, and this is my 5th trip home, Lin Ao replied in a calm tone. Once my grandfather's condition has improved, I'll be returning to the Warriors department. Yi Lingchen locked gazes with Lin Ao. Originally he thought that Lin Ao made his way to upper-class warrior due to his family's influence. By now, that assumption was completely snuffed out. Those born in the Lin family were destined to shoulder a heavier burden compared to the average people. My grandfather once told me that if your mannerisms were beyond the average people, that you would rise above the crowd. Lin Ao recollected, my grandfather also taught me that those with great power will have a greater responsibility. I hope you can reconsider what I've said. Yi Lingchen rubbed his nose, smiling bitterly, Big brother Lin, it's too early for you to discuss such matters with me. I have to focus on my studies as my foundation for now. I still have to go through martial training tomorrow. Huh? Martial training? Lin Ao slammed the brakes, as though he had just heard something unbelievable. He glued his eyes on Yi Lingchen for a moment, then laughed out loud in a boisterous manner. Ha 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 ha, brother Yi, are you kidding me? Are you going to martial training? Isn't that like asking Ultraman to hold a toy gun? Having said that, he continued laughing uncontrollably. Rocking back and forth, he was laughing so hard that he teared up. The way they addressed each other changed in a moment. From Grandmaster Ye to Brother Yi and Big Brother Lin, much closer than before. I really need to attend the martial training, said Yi Lingchen innocently. You need to go through martial training? Lin Ao stopped his outburst, then took a deep breath. Brother Yi, it's a waste of your capabilities to have you go through martial training. If you need to do it, you should at least come to my team. Big brother Lin, I'm fine with that, but I don't have any say in this. Martial training was arranged by the university and it involved their credits. Ha ha ha, this I have a say. Lin Ao laughed happily. Capital University's martial training is under the jurisdiction of the 3rd branch of the warrior department. I just need a word with them to settle this. Brother Yi, just wait until you join my team. Then we'll be comrades. Nowadays the youngsters are all wussies. They're even weaker than women. Especially those trending, little fresh meat, type. I feel like throwing up just looking at them. How could these people even talk about protecting our country? You're the only one has my respect? Martial artists are bold people. If they did not like you then that was it. Once they have taken a liking to you, then you will be a comrade for life. Very soon, they arrived at the Lin family mansion. Grandmaster Zhang came out immediately to greet Yi Lingchen. Yi Lingchen nodded in acknowledgement, then entered the mansion. Lin Tianhua was waiting in the living room. After receiving Yi Lingchen's treatment, he was already able to walk. Hee hee, little Yi, you're here. Lin Tianhua smiled at Yi Lingchen. Grandfather Lin, I apologize for my tardiness. Ha ha ha. What are you talking about, little friend? It should be this old man here thanking you instead. After the first treatment, your condition is showing signs of improvement. As you are conscious this time around, the pain would be more severe. I recommend we administer some anesthetic, Yi Lingchen suggested. Little friend, please be at ease. Pain is the least of my concern in my career as military personnel, Lin Tianhua said with a smile on his face. Both his eyes calm as still water. We can forego the anesthetic. Just go ahead. Yi Lingchen hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Following that, the servants had brought over silver needles, alcohol, and a fire pit they prepared in advance. These silver needles were different from the previous ones. All 8 needles were of different lengths, and when held, carried significant weight with them. The material resembled metal, yet carried a jade-like gentleness. It was obvious that they were painstakingly made and were extraordinary in nature. Brother Yi, these silver needles are a gift from Grandmaster Zhang. It is rumored to have belonged to Yang Jizhou I from the Ming dynasty, Lin Ao explained. Excellent needles. Yi Lingchen praised. Grandmaster Zhang instantly added, Grandmaster Yi, these silver needles are just placed in our hospital without seeing any use. With your skills, these needles would be used to its full potential by your side, not to be left gathering dust and storage. Yi Lingchen took a glance at Grandmaster Zhang. I'll remember this favor. A good set of silver needles would increase the efficiency of the treatment. Grandmaster Yang's face blushed immediately as he was filled with excitement. He was waiting for this response from Yi Lingchen all along. Throughout the treatment, Lin Tianhua never frowned once. He even managed to carry a conversation with Yi Lingchen, his expression peaceful. No wonder this old man could raise a grandchild with the likes of Lin Ao. Grandmaster Zhang, however, kept his eyes peeled, unblinking, staring hungrily at Yi Lingchen as he applied the needles, his eyes filled with awe. As the treatment ended, they had a few words. Then the Lin family arranged for their servants to send him back to school. At that time, within the Lin family mansion, Lin Tianhua's complexion looked much better. His aged face carried an air of authority as he asked, before coming here, what sort of trouble did Grandmaster Yi encounter? It was the Lu group father and son duo. Lin Ao reiterated the events from earlier once more. Grandmaster Yi held back was so that he would not owe our Lin family a favor. Lin Tianhua sighed. With a wave of his hand, our Lin family must not let this slide so easily. Send someone over to give Lu group a warning. By the time Yi Lingchen returned to the dorm, it was already almost 10 p.m. The 3 roommates had not retired to bed, but instead excitedly carrying out their battles in front of the computer. Seeing Yi Lingchen returning home at such hours, their face showed a confusing expression, as though they completely understood what had happened. Potato smiled creepily. Lil, Yi, you should hold out until 10:30 p.m. That is when they lock the dormitory doors. That way you can legitimately book a room. Yi Lingchen laughed it off. If they knew that he had dinner with Xiao Feifei that night, they would probably go into a frenzy. Xiao Feifei was a goddess of the screen after all, and these 3 are her die-hard fans. The next morning, at 7 a.m., blinding sunlight shone upon them, signifying the beginning of their martial training. Many of them had just got out of bed by that time, yet Yi Lingchen had already completed his morning exercise routine. Finishing his breakfast at the canteen, he strolled towards the field. At that time, there was a sizable crowd on the field. At a glance, everyone, regardless of gender, was all wearing camouflage uniforms given out specifically for martial training. These teenagers only stayed together in the same dorm but were otherwise strangers to one another. Everyone was evaluating each other, occasionally exchanging few words, slowly getting acquainted. However, all their eyes showed signs of nervousness towards martial training and their upcoming university life. Lil, Yi, over here. Lil, Zhen shouted. His height of over 1.9 meters standing out in the crowd. Wow, Lil, Yi, you look quite dashing in this uniform. Sham laughed at him, then pointed at Potato. Take a look at Potato. Doesn't the uniform make him look like some mole from the movies? Potato was not tall and was a little chubby. When described as such by Shang, there were visible similarities, and it drew some laughter from the crowd. The 4 of them stayed together, occasionally greeting some classmates. However, the guys were without a doubt constantly glimpsing at the girls. The quality of the girls in our class is pretty good, muttered Shang softly. That one with long hair has a killer body. I like girls with short hair. More neutral, Potato added. Hee hee, childish. Lil, Jen snapped back, I like them all. Tap tap tap. 8 a.m. sharp. Clear footsteps could be heard, sending the entire field into silence. Searching for the source of the sound, they saw 2 rows of instructors marching forth step by step. They're here, the instructors are here. Within the muttering sounds, a hint of nervousness could be heard. As the instructors entered the field, they spread outwards, going towards each of the classes they would be leading. Yi Lingchen was in the 6th class. The class instructor did not have a tall build. He was fully uniformed, with slightly darker skin tone, giving off an elitist feel. However, his features were intimidating. I'm Sun Chao. For the following half a month I'll be your martial training instructor. Everybody, stand at attention, Sun Chao roared suddenly, his voice booming with strength, sending a shiver down their spine. Don't you know how to stand in attention? Do you need me to teach you? Straighten your backs, Sun Chao continued. He walked amongst the class formations, evaluating them one by one, correcting their posture. Yi Lingchen stood straight, at the same time evaluating this instructor as well. His brows knitted together tightly unwittingly. He felt that whenever this instructor looked at the girls, his gaze gave off a weird feeling. It would seem that you guys don't know how to stand in attention. Did you just waste 20 years of your lives? Sun Chao sneered. The next instant, he stood in front of one of the girls, limp all over. Have you not had breakfast? Saying that, he grabbed the girl by her arms, then wrapped his arms around her. Raise your head, suck in your belly, and stand straight. Right, not bad. Now keep in that position. Sun Chao kept his arms around her for quite some time, then slid his hands along her body before finally letting her go. Fuck, motherfucker, pervert, Shang muttered under his breath. The rest of the class showed ugly expressions, especially the girls. Many of them turned ashen with fear. What are you guys mumbling? Stand still for an hour, snorted Sun Chao coldly. Everyone dared not voice out their anger. Fuck, who are you glaring at? Sun Chao kicked a guy in the waist, knocking him to the ground. Yi Lingchen remembered that person was called Zhu Changdong. You still dared to glare at me? A weakling like you. I could beat up 10 of you single-handedly. Sun Chao's gaze swept through the crowd. You are now in my hands. Don't try to be cocky with me, and you better not try to show off in front of my face. They were all just students. None of them have faced such intimidation before and they could only cower in fear. You, get up and run 10 laps around the field, Sun Chao ordered Zhu Changdong. The field was 400 meters in diameter. 10 laps were equivalent to 4 kilometers. That was simply trying to push him to his death. Zhu Changdong sulked, then started to jog along the field. Sun Chao continued to walk within the class, but he mostly focused on the girls' side. Every now and then he would extend his perverted trotters to touch at their hands. It seemed like constant harassment of the girls was the norm with this instructor. Not only that, his mouth was as though he had oral diarrhea, constantly spewing forth vulgarities. To the guys he would even resort to kicking them around, behaving similarly as a street thug. Your stance is decent. Now, this looks more like a martial artist. Sun Chao walked up to a girl. Your head should be like this, raise it high. Having said that, he started pinching at her face. Not bad. You girls are much better than the guys. If you're put to the battlefield, they are only trash, cannon fodders. Whereas you girls are all so supple and juicy with such elastic skin. You could at least seduce your opponents. Sun Chao gloated over them, then started to laugh maniacally. Hee hee, too bad we can't start a course here. Otherwise, I'll educate you girls properly on the art of seduction. The girls' faces turned scarlet with embarrassment. The same happened for the guys, but out of anger instead. Seeing that none dared to retaliate, Sun Chao started to act with impunity, harassing the girls more frequently and growing bolder with each attempt. One of the girls swayed, trying to avoid Sun Chao's perverted trotters. However, Sun Chao took advantage of that and caught her body instead. Why are you moving? Are you allowed to move around whimsically when you're standing at attention? As he said that, his hands groped her all over. Stand still. Continue to suck in your belly and straighten your body. Raise your chin. Following that, he moved on to another girl and asked, do you have a boyfriend? The girl shook her head in response. Really now? Then what would happen after you're done developing? Sun Chao was enjoying the moment, acting like a tyrant. the guys being his slaves, and the girls his harem, doing as he pleased. The time arduously passed eventually, it was finally time to rest, and everybody sat on the grass in silence. Fuck, what kind of rubbish instructor was that? He's not a man, more like a beast. Motherfucker, that asshole. Can we report him? This is just the first day. We still have half a month to go. How are we going to survive? The guys were still fine after venting out their frustrations. The girls, on the other hand, most of them were wiping away their tears in silence, hiding their suffering deep within. Seeing the girls in tears, many of the guys grew passionate, wanting badly to have a go at Sun Chow. Fuck, how dare he bully the girls in our class? If we guys remain stoic in this, then we're not worthy of being called men. There are so many of us, we should be able to overwhelm him, right? If we don't beat him up good, my vengeful heart won't rest easy. Lil Jen's originally dark face was even darker than usual. Lil Ye, we won't tolerate this. Must not tolerate this. On the side, Potato screamed with a fuck. He stared at his phone, his facial expression both excited and furious. This beast had committed a crime 3 years ago during martial training. He impregnated a girl. Fuck, he's out here causing trouble again. WTF. Such a thing happened. How could we appease the public if we don't get a shot at him? The class started checking their phones. The instructor's name was also Sun Chow. In the news, his picture was censored, but from the figure, it was definitely him. 3 years ago, he had impregnated a girl and was sued for sexual harassment during martial training. At that time it garnered a lot of attention. In the news, it was reported that punishments were meted out, but it did not state what type of punishment. Who would have thought that he would be out here causing trouble again? Yi Lingchen's turned gloomy as well. From Lin Ao, he could see the shadow of a Chinese martial artist, raising his respects for martial artists. Unexpectedly, there was also scum in the warriors department. This instructor was also a martial artist. At first, Yi Lingchen did not want to antagonize him, but now he was hesitating if he should have Lin Ao settle this issue. Zhu Changdong sure had it hard. He's only on the 5th lap and he's already almost burnt out. Shu Yi inside. On the field, everyone was having a break. Zhu Changdong, on the other hand, was quietly jogging along the track, covered in sweat and his eyes barely able to remain open. It seemed that he may just pass out from exhaustion at any moment. Yi Lingchen took out a bottle of water, stood up, then walked up to Zhu Changdong. "Here's some water. If you can't manage then just stop the jog," Yi Lingchen told him. "Thank you," replied Zhu Changdong thankfully, then gulped down half a bottle in one go. "That bastard of an instructor. I will report him to the student council." "The student council has jurisdiction over such matters?" Yi Lingchen was surprised. Zhu Changdong took another sip of water. The student council in a university has quite some influence. It's mainly used as a channel for the students to communicate with the school authorities through suggestions. At the very least, if we have a strong enough demand, it should be no problem to switch instructors. "Sure, let's go together later in the afternoon," replied Yi Lingchen happily. However, at that moment, Sun Chow rushed over like a mad dog. "Fuck your mother. Who allowed you to stop?" He came ready to kick Zhu Changdong, but it was unexpectedly intercepted by Yi Lingchen out of the blue. Yi Lingchen then spoke in a soft tone. "Sir, Zhu Changdong has already run 5 laps. He has reached his limit. If he were to continue, he might develop some serious conditions." "Who the fuck are you, daring to interfere? I've already told you that I despise people showing off in front of me." Without any warning, his hand moved to slap Yi Lingchen. A sharp gleam flashed through Yi Lingchen's eyes as he raised his hands to intercept Sun Chow's hand and sneered, "Instructor Sun. It is written in the martial training rules that instructors cannot use unjustified physical violence against students." "Fuck, what's your name? Don't think that I wouldn't give you 0 points for your martial training grade," shouted Sun Chow. Zhu Changdong returned the water to Yi Lingchen. "Forget it, I'll continue running." Smack. Sun Chow slapped the water out of the way. "Who permitted you to pass him water? You sure are a busybody. Fine, I'll have you run 10 laps as well." Yi Lingchen's expression remained unchanged, replying to him calmly, "I'll do 15 laps. Let him rest." "It's okay, I can still move." Zhu Changdong immediately shook his head in refusal. Yi Lingchen stared at Sun Chow. "Hee, you want to play the hero, right? He can have his rest, but you will have to do 20 laps without breaks. Go now." Immediately, Sun Chow roared, "Get out of my sight." Yi Lingchen tapped Zhu Changdong's shoulders, then proceeded to jog around the field. The commotion attracted quite a bit of attention. The crowd looked at Yi Lingchen's back, filled with both sympathy and respect at the same time. 20 laps. That's a total of 8 kilometers. Even when driving it would take 15 minutes. What are you looking at? Go back to training. Sun Chao went back to terrorizing the class. Now, boys and girls will split up. The boys will practice standing in attention over here while I bring the girls over there for quick march training. Sir, boys and girls can train together. Why do we have to split up? Said Lil Jen as he could not hold it in any longer. Who's the instructor now? Talking without permission, that'll be 3 points off for you, Sun Chao sneered. Once the scores are involved, the rest kept their silence as the girls helplessly followed Sun Chao to a corner of the field. Fuck, I've never felt so oppressed for all my life, Shu Yi fumed. They all looked at the corner. With the limiting factors out of the way, Sun Chao's harassment of the girls grew more severe, occasionally bursting into fits of perverted laughter. The guys were unable to figure out what he was talking about. After this, I'll be reporting this instructor to the student council. Who's coming along? Asked Zhu Changdong. I'll go with you, me too. If we all go together, that would get the attention of the school. Yi Lingchen jogged around the field alone. 20 laps may be an impossible dream for the average person, but for Yi Lingchen, it was merely a warm-up, hardly anything noteworthy. One should know, Yi Lingchen runs 10 kilometers for his daily morning exercise, followed by a full set of Arhat fist and 8 extremities fist training. For these 20 laps, Yi Lingchen pretty much sprinted through the entire course. With that, the morning training session also came to an end. Lil Yi, how is it? Drink some water, asked Lil Jen as he ran towards Yi Lingchen with the others. Yi Lingchen received the cup. It's fine. I used to train a lot so my endurance is sufficient. Marathons are my forte. Amazing. That was 20 full laps. You're just too amazing. I think you are much stronger than those in the army. The others were flabbergasted too. That was an almost superhuman feat. Sun Chao too glanced at Yi Lingchen. Seeing how he managed to complete the full 20 laps, his face sank and threw a malicious gaze at Yi Lingchen. Right, how was your training? Yi Lingchen questioned. I'm angry just thinking of it. Potato frustratingly pulled at his hair. That instructor split the guys and girls up, then proceeded to bully the girls in that corner. One of the girls was pushed to tears and ran back to the dorm mid-training. Sun Chao didn't stop there, and even threatened to deduct her score. Shang Tu voiced out in anger. Lil Jen merely retorted him once, and his score was deducted too. What logic is this? Is he a martial artist or a douchebag? Yi Lingchen furrowed his eyebrows. I had some dealings with the martial artists before. Discipline is the very core of their being. This is just a black sheep. Don't let his actions cause a personal bias towards martial artists. Let's go report him to the student council this afternoon. The student council office was very near the students' dormitory. At noon, all the students in Yi Lingchen's class banded together and headed towards the student council. The large crowd immediately caused quite a ruckus. The student council members dared not delay. A gathering of students at this scale was very rare even in the past. Please wait a moment, our president will be here shortly. It was a senior that welcomed the group. Apart from them, there were quite a number of other students too. Most of them were Year 2 and Year 3 students. Senior, our instructor is Sun Chao. He's a color wolf one in human skin. He was molesting the girls in our class, and then inflicted corporal punishment. The student council must do something about this. That's right. Seniors, can you please report this to the school authorities? That person is a maniac. It'll be best if you can report that to the Warriors department. Senior, he even had a bad record in the past. Regardless, please help us apply for a replacement instructor. The students complained, venting out their frustrations. I know why you are here. During martial training, it is easy to have misunderstandings between instructors and students. If the instructor goes overboard, we will help you provide your feedback. The senior paused, then continued. However, the instructor is from the Warriors department. Even the school has no authority over them, let alone our student council. Regardless, we will try our best to help you apply for a different instructor. Thank you, senior, for your efforts. The crowd let out a breath of relief. As long as the instructor can be replaced, that would be considered a decent result. While waiting, sounds of footsteps could be heard from outside the door, followed by someone saying, "The president is here." The next moment, a tall male figure with handsome features walked in. His apparel was much more mature compared to the average student, with a hint of arrogance on his face. Entering the door, he swept a glance across the crowd. When he saw Yi Lingchen, his gaze lingered in surprise, followed by a curl on the edge of his mouth to form a mischievous smile. Yi Lingchen, noticing who he was, started frowning as well with a flash of surprise in his eyes. "This is the president of our student council, He Yuan," the senior introduced immediately, then proceeded to explain the situation to He Yuan. "President He, this instructor is the scum of the warriors department. You have to help us," Lil Jen said immediately. "That's right. It's nothing much if it were just some minor physical suffering for us guys, but the girls are being taken advantage of," added Potato. The rest stared at Hu Yuan in anticipation, nervously awaiting his reply. However, He Yuan's expression was unbelievably calm. He waved his hand, in a carefree manner. "The student council can't help you with this incident." "Why?" The class's expression changed altogether. He Yuan smiled at them, saying, "Do you have any evidence? It's impossible for us to have our phones during martial training. How would we have any evidence recorded?" Zhu Changdong groaned his frustration. "Without evidence, it's your word against his." He Yuan shook his head indignantly. "Furthermore, he is a member of the warriors department. How would you expect the student council to have the authority to intervene?" "My word against his?" Shang was outraged. "We have this many witnesses. If that's not enough, we could call the girls over too. Today one of the girls was bullied to tears. Why would our entire class lie at the same time? That's hard to say. Some people may collaborate with the entire class just to escape martial training." He Yuan put on a helpless expression, then ordered, "Please show them the exit." "Fuck, what kind of student council president are you? We students are suffering, yet you are unconcerned? Incompetent student council!" Lil Jen shouted at them. He Yuan's face sank. "If you refuse to leave, I'll consider you guys a rioting crowd. By then, I'll make sure every one of you has it on record." Scram. "Fuck, trash council, might as well disband." The class had just suffered injustice from martial training and now faced with their own student council's behavior, burst out in outrage. It was at that moment, Yi Lingchen paced forward, looking directly at He Yuan. "Your beef is with me. What will it take for you to help our class?" He Yuan approached Yi Lingchen slowly, staring at him condescendingly, then whispered into his ear. "I've told you that you would regret this. This is just the beginning. There's still plenty of time ahead of us." Having said that, he slapped Yi Lingchen on the shoulder and sneered, "As long as you're willing to kneel and kowtow 3 times to me begging for help, I may reconsider." Potato jumped into a fit of rage. "Fuck your mother. You think you're so good just because you're a trash president, moron? I thought the student council was sacred. Never did I expect it to produce such scum." Lil Jen's face turned gloomy. "Motherfucker, consider it our fault to have believed in the wrong people. I'll never set foot into the student council again even if it means death. Lil Yi, let's go. I had thought of joining the student council in the past. With the corruption here, I feel disgusted even just passing by." The class vented their frustrations with curses as they looked at He Yuan full of disgust while leaving together. They had just started university life, hot-blooded and idealistic. Never did they expect society to be so filthy. Warriors Department's instructor, the student council president, both renewed their perspectives towards life. "Worst comes to worst, we can try approaching another instructor. I refuse to believe that all martial artists are like that," Shang voiced his suggestion. They all thought that the idea was plausible. Not far ahead, an instructor was approaching them in strides. Everyone had a serious expression on their face, feeling uncomfortable. "You are the team that Sun Chao is leading?" the instructor asked. Yi Lingchen nodded. "I noticed Sun Chao's behavior this morning. I need to remind you. Just tolerate it as much as you can. Half a month will pass fairly quickly," the instructor sighed. "Why?" Potato asked with a frown on his face. Lil Jen was disappointed. He had committed an offense 3 years ago. Why didn't the Warriors Department fire him? The instructor looked around, then whispered, "The Warriors Department is relatively new. Strictly speaking, it is not considered a legitimate organization by the country. The management is only slightly better than corporations, incomparable to the strictness of the army. Due to that, there will be some minor issues. Sun Chao was a thug before this, therefore his character is not polished. However, he has a brother that is a lower-class warrior with some power. allowing him to act with impunity. You all know what happened 3 years ago, but this incident was still forcefully suppressed by his brother, allowing him to remain in the Warriors Department. Even within the Warriors Department, we dare not cross Sun Chao, much less you guys. Going up against him won't end well. As the instructor finished his message, he left immediately, not daring to stay any longer. The class's expression was ugly beyond compare. Everyone had pent-up frustrations within them, even breathing became difficult. Even though lower-class warrior was the lowest managerial position in the Warriors Department, it was still a managerial position. Putting aside combat abilities, that position alone, for a student, was someone beyond compare. Fuck, that guy even had a lower-class warrior brother? No wonder he dares to be so reckless. Evil will not triumph over good. Worst case, we can fight that bitch of an instructor. 1:30 p.m., on the field, clear shouts emanated. Martial training began. Under the scorching sun, the field was like a grill, making the martial training even more intolerable. Sun Chao walked over slowly with a dark face. His gaze was like those of a poisonous snake, picking its victim to devour. With a deep menacing voice, "Earlier this afternoon, which of you reported me to the student council? Come forward now." WTF. Those bastards at the student council. It's bad enough that they won't help us, they even sold us out. Lil, Jen gritted his teeth as he muttered. All the guys looked at each other, then slowly walked out of their line. Hee hee, very well, Sun Chao sneered. You bunch of little wuss dared to go report me? With that, he kicked out towards the nearest male student, sending him to the ground immediately. The student groaned, unable to stand for quite some time. Have you no fear of death, daring to report me? Everyone was anxious, feeling uneasy. There's no need for you to train in anything else. Just stand there. If anyone moves, I'll break his legs, Sun Chao continued. Standing in attention under the scorching sun, without rest, was absolute torture for the students. After that, Sun Chao walked up to the girls' line. The girls were trembling in fear while standing in position, biting their lips to keep their mouths shut. You have learned the quick march this morning. Now we're moving on to the goose step. Sun Chao gave a simple demonstration, then requested for the girls to begin. On my command, raise leg. The girls raised their legs. Sun Chao then walked over, observing them one by one. He grabbed at a girl's calf. You need to raise this leg of yours more. Afterward, he moved to another girl's side, held her by the shoulder and groped her. Relax your shoulders. Here, I'll correct it for you. The next moment, his eyes gleamed. Walking to the other side, you need to put more strength in your thigh, split your legs more. Having said that, he reached for the girl's inner thigh. However, the girl swayed her body and moved 2 steps back, responding in fear. Sir, I understand. I'll adjust it myself. Sun Chao did not give up. How are you going to adjust it? Get into the proper posture. I'll adjust it for you. That girl helplessly backed off another 2 steps, her eyes red. Quick, don't waste time. If you don't cooperate, I'll deduct your score, Sun Chao threatened. The girl's face was filled with indecision, not knowing what to do. At that moment, a voice suddenly cut across. Sir, it's inappropriate for physical contact between man and woman. Please mind your actions. Fuck, Lil, Ye, you're nuts, Potato said in a worried tone. Lil, Jen exclaimed in surprise. Lil, Ye, you're the man. Sun Chao glared with his tiger-like eyes, asked in a cold tone, who is it? Yi Lingchen slowly took 2 steps forward, admitting calmly, it's me. Seeing Yi Lingchen, Sun Chao's malicious intent grew stronger. Bastard, don't you just love to play the hero? The entire class looked at Yi Lingchen, their eyes filled with worry. Sir, as a martial artist, you represent the Warriors Department. You should strictly follow the rules of martial arts so as not to blemish the name of the Warriors Department. Yi Lingchen locked gazes with Sun Chao, showing no signs of fear. It was said that a hero's taboo is to abuse his martial arts. The rules of martial arts were specifically meant for the discipline of a martial artist. You dare stick your nose in my case? That's some courage? Sun Chao walked up to Yi Lingchen slowly, his eyes as though looking at some toy. Just as he was 3 feet away from Yi Lingchen, Sun Chao's gaze exploded with murderous intent. He raised his fist, launching it at full speed towards Yi Lingchen. You dare bring up the rules of martial arts with me? You're fucking tired of living? That fist was extremely quick, closing the 3 feet distance within an instant. Warrior's fist. a fundamental fist technique that all martial artists had to learn. It focused on the instant takedown of an opponent, especially in close quarters. Many students could only witness a blur, their eyes unable to follow the action. Ye Lingchen's body swayed. His arms were raised, left hand blocking the fist, while the right hand held onto the upper arm from the side. Right after that, his body bent over for an overhead throw. Sun Chao, flung into the air, performed a somersault and landed on his feet. This moron dared to fight back. The crowd finally recovered from their shock and looked at Sun Chao in astonishment. "Lil Yi, that's amazing!" exclaimed Shang. Quite a number of girls glued their eyes on Ye Lingchen, their beautiful eyes revealing their amazement. "So you know a thing or two about martial arts. No wonder you're such a busybody." Sun Chao turned around, his icy glare fixed on Ye Lingchen, giving off a sadistic aura. Ye Lingchen tightened his lips, then spoke out slowly, one word at a time. "I challenge you." A soft voice with just simple words, yet each word, when it reached the students' ears, sounded like a thunderous roar. Their pupils contracted to the edge of their eyes. After a short moment, they finally came to, unable to believe their ears. Ye Lingchen challenged an instructor. That was as though a newborn infant was trying to challenge an adult. "Lil Yi, that's crazy. He's an instructor. To be an instructor, you would have to be the cream of the crop in the warriors department. That's a real martial artist." Shang took in a deep breath and tried to persuade his friend. "That's right, Lil Yi, quickly take back your words. This is not a joke," Potato added quickly. "Lil Yi, calm down, at worst we will just leave this be. There's no need to risk your own life for a joke," said Lil General. Others in class were showing odd expressions too. "Shocking. That was just too shocking." Capital University had a rule. Within the martial training period, students are allowed to challenge the instructors. If the student succeeds, they could make any request at the university. However, even though the rule existed, nobody ever paid it much heed. It was instead treated as a joke. For one to enroll in Capital University, that person was not a national defense student, nor an athlete. How would one challenge an instructor in such circumstances? That's a martial artist, wanting to win a challenge, that was just impossible. Unexpectedly, someone issued a challenge this day. "You want to challenge me?" Sun Chao was equally astonished, though it was more from excitement than shock. He curled the edge of his mouth and licked his lips. His eyes were filled with eagerness. Once the challenge was issued, it was treated as a duel. Along with fights comes risks. Nobody would be responsible for any injury and permanent disabilities that result from the battle. Under normal circumstances, he would have to bear with certain consequences if he wanted to do anything to Ye Lingchen, but in this challenge, he could act as he liked towards Ye Lingchen without consequences. "Lil Yi, don't be impulsive, don't agree with it." Nevertheless, Ye Lingchen took 2 steps forwards and walked straight up to Sun Chao's face. Taking advantage of the higher ground, he looked down towards Sun Chao. "I challenge you. Do you accept?" "Ha ha ha, why would I not? Walk while you still can, before you end up becoming paraplegic." Sun Chao laughed out loud while walking away. Following the issuance of the challenge, there was 1 hour of preparation time. Very quickly, the news spread like wildfire across the entire university. "What? That kid wants to challenge an instructor." In the office, He Yuan jumped up, his face brimming with excitement. "He's asking for death, asking for death. At first, I was still thinking about how to exact my revenge on that kid, but now he's looking for death all on his own. Ha ha ha, that makes things easier for me." He got more excited as he thought about it. "Come on, let's head over. I must witness that kid suffer the beating of his lifetime." On the field, martial training came to a halt. Students and instructors alike were all stunned by the news. At the same time, they all shifted their focus onto that young man. Mundane in appearance and dressed in casual clothing, he had nothing striking on him. "Lil Yi, I brought my fleece jacket along earlier. You should put it on. Its padding should provide some form of protection," suggested Lil General. "We can take out our long johns for you." "Lil Yi, put them on as well," added Potato. Ye Lingchen shook his head in rejection with a smile. "Relax, I am well trained. The victor has yet to be decided." "Lil Yi, you're the man. From now on you will be the head of our dormitory. We as your followers will be quite prestigious too," Shang jested, trying to relieve the tense situation. At that moment, the instructor they met earlier that afternoon came by again. He was staring at Yi Lingchen with a scowl. Just earlier this afternoon I told you to hold it in, yet you guys just ignored my advice. He shook his head helplessly. Sun Chao was a thug in the past. He always carried that ruthlessness with him. Ever since he entered the warriors department, his ruthlessness only increased, famed for his combat capability within the warriors department. Instructor, there are some things that a man could not let by, replied Yi Lingchen with a smile. How can you still be smiling at a time like this? The instructor felt even more helpless, developing some respect for Yi Lingchen's mental state. Being long-winded with his advice, he added, later when the fight begins, you should immediately surrender. Once you surrender, that would be the end of the challenge. Kid, your dignity is not that important, you must understand that. Thank you for your reminder. Relax, I know what I can do, Yi Lingchen thanked him. Time passed bit by bit. The field was no longer just filled with Year 1 students there for martial training. It was then filled with many seniors wearing casual clothes. They gathered there due to the rumors, trying to have a look at this heaven-defying junior of theirs. Ever since the founding of Capital University, there was never any precedence of a student challenging the instructor. To think that this year would be the first for such an incident. Oh, the new students these days sure are scary, to challenge an instructor. His bravery is commendable. Too bad he acts without thinking, what an idiot. The outcome doesn't matter. I'm just here for the show. They gathered up, discussions of all sorts started amongst the students. That afternoon was destined to set the record for capital universities for a day with the highest truancy rate. Some even leaked that teachers skipped class as well. Within an hour, the 3 inner and outer levels of the field were filled with people. Within the crowd, 2 young women were similarly waiting. One of them had light makeup on, coolly standing there while the other had her hair dyed bright scarlet. The foundation on her face altered her face from its original form. All that could be seen was her large eyes and her disorderly demeanor. The first impression one would get from her was that of a female gangster. However, unlike the rest, these 2 young women had an open clearing around them. No guys or girls dared to approach them. An observant person would realize that many guys would constantly look at them from the corner of their eyes. When they looked at the cool young woman, their eyes were entranced. While they looked at the female gangster, their gazes revealed signs of fear. Xiaomeng, you brought me here just to see this. Li Mushui rolled her eyes. What's so nice to watch about a fight? This is the first case of a student challenging an instructor in the history of Capital University. If we missed this we will regret it for life, blurted Huang Xiaomeng excitedly. With that, she tiptoed to observe the field. Unfortunately, her stature was short, so all she could see were just heads moving about. Those in front, I'll kick your balls if you dare block my view. In an instant, Huang Xiaomeng's roar silenced the bustling noises. The next moment, shuffling noises could be heard as those in front of her crouched down uniformly. Li Mushui placed her hand on her head, blushing. Xiaomeng, can you stop being such a butch? Li Mushui, people will bully you if you're weak. If you're like me, do you think that thug from that time would be able to take advantage of you? Huang Xiaomeng replied. Then swung her little soft fist around. He stole your first kiss and made you suffer for such a long time. Just wait until I meet him. I'll avenge you. At that same moment, the crowd started moving. Yi Lingchen had stepped foot on the main stage. It's him? Li Mushui saw that familiar figure, trembling slightly in surprise. Who? Huang Xiaomeng raised her head. You are acquainted with the brave soul that challenged the instructor. That's the guy the first told you about. Li Mushui gritted her teeth. Fuck, no wonder he had the gall to kiss you. I must meet him. Huang Xiaomeng was boiling with excitement. Li Mushui stared at Yi Lingchen, then bit her lip. Why would he challenge an instructor? Isn't this just asking for trouble? The student council is here as well. The crowd immediately moved aside, clearing a path. He Yuan brought along some people and slowly headed towards the main stage. You're that scum, bellowed Lil Zhen immediately. Not only did He Yuan ignore their pleas, he even alerted Sun Chao about it. If it was not for that, it would not have developed into this situation. He Yuan's cold gaze swept across Lil Zhen and the gang, displaying his displeasure. He came here just to witness Yi Lingchen getting beat up, then at that moment, he planned to strut in front of him and humiliate him. Just thinking of that scene made him tremble in anticipation. Tap, tap, tap. The next moment, a set of uniform footsteps could be heard. The instructors marched up onto the stage in a line. A martial artist's challenge must have a strict and serious opening ceremony. Wah, the instructors are here. That march is so consistent. These martial artists are just too good looking. A duel between student and martial artist. This would only appear in a novel, right? I'm so excited. The instructors marched to the bottom of the stage, then stood still. After that, Sun Chao marched out from the line and headed slowly onto the stage. He placed his left leg on the step, then his body shot up into the air. With a somersault, he landed steadily on the main stage. Even though the main stage had only 6 steps, this manner of entry immediately drew cheers from the crowd. "Hey, is that kid from your class stupid? He's biting off more than he could chew," sneered He Yuan. "You move aside. Lil, Ye can do it." "Hee, are you joking?" He Yuan revealed a sarcastic smile. "How long do you think he can stay on the stage? I'll bet 3 minutes. Oh wait. Make that 3 seconds, I estimate that after 3 seconds he would be lying on the ground like a dead dog." "Shut your fucking mouth or I'll give you such a beating you'll end up a paraplegic." Lil, Jen's dark and tall figure stepped forward, his expression dark to the extreme. The rest were also breathing heavily, their eyes glued to the main stage, nervously gripping their fists. On the main stage, Yi Lingchen and Sun Chao faced off, the distance between them merely 5 meters apart. Sun Chao's eyes were filled with excitement and bloodlust. He gripped his fist, then shrugged his shoulders to loosen up his joints. Under everyone's observation, he was like a tiger, emanating an aura of fear. In contrast, Yi Lingchen was mundane. He simply stood on the spot with the naivety of a student. "Fights are risky. If you lose any limbs, don't blame me." Sun Chao smirked, raising the corner of his mouth. Yi Lingchen had a serene expression, as though he was not even on the stage. "I'll give you one more chance. Apologize to the entire class and resign from the position as an instructor. If you miss this chance, it will be too late to beg for mercy." Yi Lingchen's simple words sounded extremely dissonant in the quiet field, causing the crowd to grow more silent. Directly afterward, torrents of monstrous jeers and ridicule burst forth from the crowd. Everyone was looking at Yi Lingchen as though he was a retarded kid. "Fuck, did I hear that right? I think my ears are having problems. No wonder he dared to challenge the instructor. Turns out he's a retard. This is gold. It would seem that I need to give him a perfect score for this round of bragging." He Yuan too was rocking back and forth in laughter, holding onto his stomach and trembling all over, unable to keep his balance. He exclaimed in surprise, "This kid really knows a thing or two. He even mastered the art of speechcraft. He might just have someone laugh to death out of the blue. This is just too scary." Li Mushui shook her head from afar, her eyes betraying her mixed feelings. That guy was quite amazing on the bus. His attitude made it impossible for him to bow down to power. Too bad his opponent was an instructor. A person needs to learn how to adapt to the situation, using an opponent's strength to match one's own weakness. That was just looking for trouble. "Sister Mushui, could it be that you're worried for that good for nothing?" Huang Xiaomeng was anxious. "You must never fall for that love at first kiss nonsense. Just treat it as some random dog bite, do not fall for it." "No, I'm not." "Stop that nonsense." Li Mushui blushed, then went silent. In the crowd, Yi Lingchen's entire class panicked, their face ashen. That was a martial artist. They could easily take down an average person with just a simple grapple. Why would Lil, Yi make these imprudent claims? "What's wrong? Your expressions turned ugly all of a sudden," snickered He Yuan at Lil, Jen and the rest. "Can you fucking shut your damn mouth?" shouted Potato. "Why are you agitated?" He Yuan chuckled. "If I were you, I would immediately go get a wheelchair. That'd help you move that moron away from the stage later." "Oh, right. You should also bring him to the hospital to check that brain of his." Sun Chao was laughing to the point of tears. With his fingers pointed at Yi Lingchen, he took a deep breath. "What bullshit are you spewing? Giving me a chance?" With that said, he lunged forward directly at Yi Lingchen. 1-inch punch. Quick as lightning with tricky angle, as crafty as a snake, the fist rushed towards Yi Lingchen's chest. This time, he learned from the earlier overhead throw from Yi Lingchen. His fist aimed downwards, improving his center of gravity. Nonetheless, Yi Lingchen merely raised his arms and held that fist in his palm, his body not budging in the slightest. Sun Chao's heart sank. He gave Yi Lingchen a weird look, then immediately formed another fist with his free hand and launched another attack at Yi Lingchen. Smack! As though it were child's play, Yi Lingchen similarly grabbed the other fist in his palm. Sun Chao tried to extract his fists, yet he felt an immeasurable force clamping down on his fists, locking them in place. He then raised his leg, attempting to kick. Yi Lingchen raised his leg at the same instant, pinning Sun Chao's foot on the ground. You? Sun Chao stared at Yi Lingchen in disbelief, his eyes finally showing signs of fear. In terms of speed, strength, and even technique, he was no match for Yi Lingchen. Sir. Crack, he wanted to surrender, but before he could make the statement, out came a gut-wrenching wail. Both his arms were snapped by Yi Lingchen, the bones within crushed. The next moment, Yi Lingchen raised one hand, smack. Sun Chao's face distorted from the slap, his body soared upwards and made a complete spin in the air before landing on the ground. This slap is for the girls in our class, Yi Lingchen stated casually. He then raised his leg and aimed a kick at Sun Chao's abdomen. Thud! Sun Chao's body slid across the stage like a fallen animal and rolled off the stage. This kick is for the guys in our class. Yi Lingchen walked to the edge of the stage, looking down condescendingly at Sun Chao. Peefed. Sun Chao spit out a mouthful of blood, his face ashen, eyes filled with horror. He was lying on the ground. The excruciating pain prevented him from getting up. He felt it very clearly. Both his arms were broken, his face was swollen, and his abdomen filled with a sharp pain. He had lost. A complete defeat, from start to end. Yi Lingchen was like a cat toying with its prey. He easily nullified Sun Chao's attacks and mopped the floor with him. Recalling the recent past, he had lost all the will to retaliate. How could he be that strong? Yi Lingchen turned away and slowly descended from the main stage. He had given Sun Chao a chance, but he did not treasure it. With that, there was no need for useless banter. At that moment, the entire field was deathly silent. The crowd's eyes bulged, almost forgetting to breathe. They were all stupefied on the spot. Students were stunned, teachers were stunned, and the instructors in the field were also stunned. The duel ended way too quickly. The result was also way beyond their imagination. It seemed more impossible than a dream. Previously, they were all worried about Yi Lingchen. Who would have thought that the instructor would lose? A Year 1 new student defeating an instructor. It was impossible to even comprehend on a global scale, let alone in the history of Capital University. How could this be? He Yuan stood below the main stage. It took him a while to come to his senses. All he felt was an extreme chill in his limbs and his pounding heart. Yi Lingchen was such a capable fighter. He Yuan imagined that if he received a punch from Yi Lingchen, he would immediately be sent to heaven. The surrounding students eventually recovered their senses from the shock one by one. Everyone looked at Yi Lingchen, their pupils dilated to the extreme. All they felt was awe, fear, and some confusion. Victory? Fuck. What the heck just happened? I was too far away to see. Can someone explain it to me? This year's junior is a ruthless person. In the future, we'll have to reconsider how we approach our female juniors. In the crowd, the most excited people was definitely the 6th class. Lil, Yi, that's so cool, amazing, Lil, Yi. Why didn't you tell us you were that good? You made me worry all this time for nothing. That's right, I almost cried, you scammed my feelings. By the time Yi Lingchen made his way to them, their faces were bright red, brimming with excitement. They were at a loss of words for such a situation, and finally, all of them just unanimously shouted, fuck. At that time, they felt that Yi Lingchen was glowing with radiant light. Spectacular beyond compare. It's fine, that's nothing to be excited about, Yi Lingchen laughed. Yeezy, were you trained by a kung fu master previously? Just like those martial artists in the movies? Lil, Jen asked excitedly. It's just some fist techniques, not as exaggerated as those in the movies, Yi Lingchen replied. Can you teach me? The eyes of all the guys were glowing, already imagining themselves flying around and running on walls. Are you disciplined enough to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning? Yi Lingchen asked, laughing. Everyone shut up in an instant. Sun Chao was sent back to the department. The 6th class was without an instructor, but they could not put martial training on hold. Instead, the instructor that came over to warn Yi Lingchen twice was appointed as their temporary instructor. The instructor's name was Zhou Wei. He had a strong sense of justice and was also quite charismatic. From the looks of it, he trained them well and were well liked by the students. Not only was he able to point out the mistakes they made, He managed to motivate the students to willingly correct them. Look at the instructors for the other class. Our class really has bad luck, Potato muttered. 3:30 p.m., break time. Zhou Wei, being friendly, came by and sat down beside Yi Lingchen, giving him a big thumbs up. Little friend, you've hidden it well. I didn't expect you to be such a good fighter. That's just amazing. I've trained a bit in the past, Yi Lingchen replied with a smile. Ha ha ha, you're just being humble. With your level of abilities, even in the warriors department, it's considered uncommon. My guess is that you're comparable to the upper-class elites, Zhou Wei laughed. After a momentary pause, he asked out of curiosity, so, what kind of request are you going to ask of the university? I want to have a different instructor. That's it? Zhou Wei gave a surprised look at Yi Lingchen. Do you know how precious this request is? You could ask for a master's degree, a PhD, or even job opportunities. The university will definitely assist you. Yi Lingchen smiled. Just that simple request is enough. Good. Such righteousness. Out of the blue, a loud engine roar could be heard overpowering all sounds in the vicinity, causing the crowd to scowl. Following that, a BMW X5 drove straight towards the crowd. It was like a beast. Even within campus grounds it was driving recklessly. All the students had to get out of its way. Shit. It's Sun Wei's car. Zhou Hui's expression changed drastically, now filled with unease. Sun Wei? Yi Lingchen scowled. Zhou Hui's expression remained dark. Sun Wei is Sun Chao's brother. He was not in this troop. I didn't expect him to return here today. The car pulled over by the edge of the field. Doors opened, and 4 men came down from it. They were carrying a stretcher. The one lying on it was without a doubt Sun Chao. As they came down from the car, Sun Chao immediately shot his gaze directly at Yi Lingchen's direction, his eyes filled with deep vengeance. Finally, a man wearing a martial artist uniform came down from the car. He looked to be in his 30s, bearing some resemblance to Sun Chao, having a tall hooked nose and ruthless eyes. Their arrival was seemingly accompanied by an invisible energy that spread across the field. Everyone there felt a sense of suffocating pressure. Tap, 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 they strode forward, slowly approaching the main stage. Sun Wei led at the front. Both his hands were behind his back, his eyes looking down condescendingly at the crowd. Even without words, the strong energy emanated from him caused the audience to feel suffocated. That was a type of murderous intent. This person had been on the battlefield before. In no time, He Yuan led the student council members and hurried over. Their foreheads were filled with drops of sweat, appearing both nervous and excited at the same time. As he passed by Yi Lingchen's side, the corner of He Yuan's lips curled into a sadistic smile. Dumbass, you're dead. Zhou Wei stared at Sun Wei, who stood on the main stage, then trembled. His face showed an expression of disbelief and stuttered, that's 2 green stars. What's wrong? Yi Lingchen felt a hint of bad feeling creeping up from within. Look at Sun Wei's shoulders. The badges on top represent his martial artist's grade. Zhou Wei took a deep breath. He used to have only 1 green star, representing his ranking as a lower-class warrior. Now there are 2 green stars, which means that he had been promoted to middle-class warrior. Green stars represented the warrior rank, orange stars were representative of the guardian rank, while the red stars represented the general rank. Gasp! The students around him gasped. That was a middle-class warrior, a lifelong goal for most people. A country is governed by laws, families are governed by rules. Furthermore, the Warriors Department is only a partner to our university in this training. And Yeezy had a fair duel. They can't do as they please. Lil Jen said in a worrying tone. The Warriors Department was only a third-party training organization. Zhou Wei shook his head. He was not as optimistic as the students. The Warriors Department was very influential. Moreover, rumors had it that Sun Wei went to Jinling, taking part in the Blue Wolf special training. With him returning directly as a middle-class warrior, that would make the rumor highly probable. That was the Blue Wolf, one of the top warriors' special training branches. The Blue Wolf branch was named so because those that participated in the training camp all could fight a wolf barehanded. Sun Wei's combat power when compared to Sun Chao, was like heaven and earth. Just the thought of it sent a chill down Zhou Hui's limbs. Yi Lingchen was just a student. How could he hold his ground against such a strong martial artist? He Yuan kept his body low and walked up to Sun Wei's side, incomparably humble. His face was filled with a patronizing smile. "Who is Yi Lingchen?" Sun Wei finally spoke. His voice was not loud, yet at the same time, it carried the might of unmatched authority. All the students in the 6th class stiffened up involuntarily, clutching their fists nervously. Yi Lingchen remained stoic, looked up at Sun Wei and replied without any hesitations, "I am." Sun Wei's gaze was like electricity, shooting towards Yi Lingchen, as though a tiger locking onto its prey, ready to pounce at any moment. "Sun Chao is your instructor, but you beat him up, causing serious injuries," Sun Wei stated coldly, then looked towards He Yuan. "He Yuan, how will the student council settle this incident?" He Yuan immediately answered, "Such an unruly student with underhanded tactics, I will report it truthfully to our university authorities, suggesting for him to be expelled. Furthermore, this person had assaulted a martial artist. This will be on the records as a stain on his life." A gleam flashed through Yi Lingchen's eyes. Expelling a student, entering into records. Such ruthless methods. If an average person were faced with such a treatment, not only would job search be an issue, no matter where that person goes, be it the train or flights, would also be limited. Unable to move an inch would be a fitting description for that. It could be said that it would completely ruin Yi Lingchen's future, maiming him for life. Also, however, that was not the end of it. He Yue looked at Yi Lingchen with an evil grin. "Yi Lingchen needs to apologize to Instructor Sun Chao. Kneel to show your sincerity. Apart from that, Instructor Sun Chao's medical expenses will be fully covered by Yi Lingchen." This. Not just the students from the 6th class, but the entire crowd on the field were similarly dumbfounded. They all exchanged looks. It started as a fair duel. How did it result in something with such severe consequences? That's not fair. Everyone here can be a witness that it was a fair duel between Yizi and Sun Chao. "What are you basing these accusations on?" Shang asked, unable to hold it in any longer. "That's right. Do you have any shame? Fuck your father? He Yuan, you bastard. How can a scum like you be the president of the student council? This is a joke." Many students shouted at the injustice furiously. They were young and filled with youthful passion, not knowing fear. However, Sun Wei and He Yuan were deaf to the sounds from below, expressions stoic, as though they were watching a group of clowns. "On the side, Sun Chao's class will be handled by me." Sun Wei's mouth curled upwards in a menacing manner. His eyes carried a hint of sadism, sending chills through the students of 6th class. At that moment, Zhou Wei had reached his limit and stood forward, middle-class warrior Sun. What Yi Lingchen and Sun Chao had was a fair duel. Sun Wei's smile disappeared. His eyes locked on Zhou Wei. "You, come up the stage and say it." Zhou Wei gritted his teeth, then walked up the main stage. All eyes were upon him. Middle-class warrior Sun, they had a fair. Halfway through his words, Sun Wei's body was already up in the air. A forceful sidekick flew towards Zhou Hui's head. Zhou Wei immediately tried to block with his hands. Even so, his entire body was sent flying by an unbelievable force. Like a cannonball, his body flew over 10 meters out from the main stage. Peefed. Zhou Wei sprayed out a mouthful of fresh blood. Half his face was dented, and his blocking arm was broken. That kick was terrible beyond belief. Gulp. In the field, the sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard. They felt their mouths dried up and were too nervous to breathe loudly. How strong would one have to be to send an instructor flying with a kick? If not for them witnessing this live, nobody dared to imagine that such an expert existed in this world. As a martial artist, you doubted your superior's decision and blurted nonsense. "If this happens again, you'll be punished according to the warrior's law," Sun Wei said in a carefree manner, as though nothing had happened. "Anyone else objecting to my decision?" Instructors were scared, the students even more so. "I object." Just as Sun Wei controlled the situation and was ready to announce Yi Lingchen's punishments, a voice came forth. Everyone looked towards the stubborn young man with mixed feelings. "Yizi, just leave it. That person is not someone we can trifle with," Potato reminded him quietly. Sun Chao harassed the female students in the name of an instructor. Why was it swept under the carpet? Yi Lingchen continued his questioning. Sun Wei frowned, but quickly laughed it off, ignoring Yi Lingchen. He spoke softly to He Yuan, "Ignore him and announce the offenses of that bastard one by one." He Yuan threw a mocking glare at Yi Lingchen, as though watching a monkey. Yi Lingchen disobeyed the instructor during martial training, offense number 1. This offense is made up. I object. Yi Lingchen continued. Sun Chao was using physical violence on students, leaving injuries on them. Why do you not care? Yi Lingchen, your attitude is deplorable. Is this main stage somewhere you could act as you wish? The offense I'm stating is an accusation from the entire university. To have a student like you in our university is sullying the name of Capital University. He Yuan criticized matter-of-factly, then continued. Yi Lingchen disobeyed the instructor during martial training, then used underhanded methods to assault the instructor, causing serious injuries. Offense number 2. I object. Yi Lingchen raised his head, proclaiming loudly, Sun Chao and I had a fair duel, the whole university can attest to that. Yi Lingchen, oh Yi Lingchen, your brain really is something. Can't you see by now what the situation is like? He Yuan snickered internally, ignoring Yi Lingchen and continued. During schooling hours, Yi Lingchen led a crowd to cause trouble at the student council, mocking the student council president. Offense number 3. I object. Under the main stage, Yi Lingchen's figure looked extremely small, at the same time sounding meek. Sun Chao looked at Yi Lingchen in all his awkwardness, his eyes overflowing with excitement. His entire face turned extremely ugly, laughing uncontrollably. Ha ha ha, bastard, just you wait. This is just the beginning. I'll make you regret this, you will definitely regret this. Sun Wei looked down on Yi Lingchen, giving off a look as though he controlled over a person's life and death. You object? What about it? His words carefree, as though he was merely killing an ant. The entire school went silent. Under Sun Wei's pressure, they all bowed their heads, unable to muster the courage to speak at all. I wish to challenge you. Staring directly at Sun Wei, Yi Lingchen narrowed his eyes before finally speaking. Another challenge? The crowd raised their heads, giving Yi Lingchen an astonished look. He's crazy. This kid must have gone nuts from anger. Yeezy, he will kill you. Lil Zhen's face turned pale, trembling in fear. The sight of Zhou Wei being sent flying from a kick was still fresh in their mind. That was an instructor and he still faced such a dire fate. Yi Lingchen was not going to fare any better. Sun Wei might just really kill him. You're challenging me? Sun Wei looked at Yi Lingchen mockingly. Sure, I shall accept your challenge. Brother, avenge me. Break his limbs. Sun Chao's eyes were blood red as a rabid dog, barking in a frenzy. Ha ha ha, you bastard, you dare challenge my brother? That's just asking for death? Get on the stage. Sun Wei looked down at Yi Lingchen. We can start immediately. Let's end this quick. Yi Lingchen kept his silence and walked onto the stage. Bastard, you know why I had your offenses read out for you one by one? Asked Sun Wei slowly, taking his time but instead treated this like a cat toying with a rat. I wanted to provoke you. That way you will challenge me out of anger. Sun Wei glared at Yi Lingchen. This way I can maim you legally. You didn't let me down. You think you're so great just because you learned a little bit of martial arts? You like to play hero, unwilling to be humiliated. You're arrogant and ignorant, not knowing that there are plenty of people you shouldn't cross in this world. I am one of them. Yi Lingchen's eyes were half closed. So what? Ha ha ha. A young man doesn't know when to back off. Just wait until I maim your limbs and turn you into a paraplegic. You'll understand it then. Sun Wei laughed out loud, locking his eyes on Yi Lingchen like an eagle hunting for prey. Brother, stop wasting time talking to him. I can't wait any longer. Make him kneel and beg me for forgiveness. I want to see him prostrate himself before me, shouted Sun Chao excitedly. The devilish tone in his voice sent chills down everyone's spine. He Yuan stood by the side, looking at Yi Lingchen like how he would at a corpse. So what if you could fight? You're just a strong simpleton. Bragging brings you momentary enjoyment, just like beautiful fireworks. A flash in the night sky. This type of person is destined to be left behind by the times, not a worthy opponent at all. Yi Lingchen's unmatched arrogance, with just a simple trick or two, will meet its demise. Everyone needs to bear the consequences of his ignorance and recklessness. You will not only pay the price, at the same time you will drag your classmates along. Sun Wei lectured with an overbearing presence in a cold demeanor. I will train them well and give them an unforgettable experience. You sure love to bullshit, replied Yi Lingchen calmly while staring at Sun Wei. Since you're impatient to die, I'll grant you that wish, Sun Wei sneered. Up until this moment you still want to get the upper hand in the exchange, he thought to himself. Finishing his sentence, he leapt into the air with his legs raised. From above, he aimed directly for Yi Lingchen's chin. That kick, flying through the air, was so quick that the air crackled with the sound of rushing wind. The crowd could only see that a shadow flashed by, followed by ringing sounds in their ears. Too fast and too strong. An average person would have his mouth full of teeth all broken. Concussive damage would be considered the luckier outcome. The next instant, Yi Lingchen moved as well. His movements were similar to Sun Wei, raising his leg. However, last to act, first to reach. Bang! Both legs clashed and the terrible sound of bones fracturing rang out, causing goosebumps to raise for the crowd. Sun Wei wailed, his leg bent immediately and knelt on the ground. His heart was racing. His leg bones were broken, the entire leg was maimed. The whole field fell into a deathly silence. This. Many people stuttered but were at a loss for words. Sun Chao's eyes almost popped out of its sockets. His mouth wide open, unable to close. His brother went on his knees. Inconceivable, unbelievable. Just a second ago he was still putting an air of confidence, as though everything was under his control. The next second he's down on his knees, unable to even stand. The stark contrast shocked everyone, their eyes popping open wide, leaving their minds blank. No, impossible, barked Sun Chao aloud. In his mind, his brother was a godlike existence. No matter what came up, his brother would settle it with ease. When it came to fighting, he was undefeated. Sun Chao's eyes were bloodshot. His entire person on the edge of his sanity. At that moment, his grasp on reality shattered, his beliefs crumbled. This type of impact almost stopped his heartbeat, his heart almost exploded. How could his god lose? And of all things being taken out by a university student in one hit. He Yuan had already stealthily gone down from the main stage. His face was ashen, his eyes filled with dread when looking at Yi Lingchen. How is this a student? This is a monster in humanoid form. Sun Wei locked his gaze at Yi Lingchen, his eyes turning red, not bothering to hide his intent to kill. He spoke in a ghastly tone, "Bastard, you've triggered me now. Believe me, you will die a horrible death. Evildoers will meet their demise." Yi Lingchen remained expressionless. This following kick is for Instructor Zhou. Thud! He lifted his leg and kicked towards Sun Wei's side. Sun Wei was on one knee in front of Yi Lingchen. That kick landed firmly on his shoulder. In an instant, Sun Wei flew outwards, exactly like how he sent Zhou Wei flying. However, while in midair, Sun Wei's face turned icy. His gaze knife-like, sticking to Yi Lingchen. His other hand suddenly reached behind his back. It was a gun. The black hole at the tip of the gun raised goosebumps all over Yi Lingchen's body. His body bent sideways and made a side flip without hesitation. Bang! A clear sound louder than thunder caused everyone's ears to ring. On the main stage, there was a hole in the marble. The next moment, shrieks of horror broke out from the field. Sun Wei's shot missed. He prepared to continue looking for his target. However, a black shadow stepped hard on the pillar of the main stage, flying directly at him like a rock with its wings spread wide. Yi Lingchen understood that he must not run when facing a gun. Instead, he had to close the distance. Only then he would have a chance of survival. No matter how fast a person could run, could he outrun bullets? While his body was in midair, Yi Lingchen struck like lightning and grabbed Sun Wei's hand that wielded the gun. Raising his foot, he struck out directly at Sun Wei's abdomen. Bang! Both of them landed at the same time. Yi Lingchen squinted at Sun Wei, holding the gun pointing directly at Sun Wei's head. In the field, various sound of gasping, crying, and heartbeats all mixed together. The atmosphere turned extremely heavy. Pull the trigger. Blood was leaking out of the corner of Sun Wei's mouth, yet he still laughed without care. Witnessing Yi Lingchen's silence, his laughter grew louder. Ha ha ha, do you dare pull the trigger? Bastard, you're dead. Not only did you attack a martial artist, but you've also stolen a gun in retaliation. You're done for. Sun Wei looked mockingly at Yi Lingchen. The warriors department won't let you go, just wait for your punishment to come. Vroom! At that moment, engine sounds could be heard. A large jeep rushed over. 3 people came down from the car. 2 of them were ordinary martial artists. Another person stood in the middle, his chest carried a bright twinkling badge. 3 green stars, an upper-class warrior. Ha ha ha, the upper-class warrior is here, bastard, you're dead. Sun Wei could imagine the terrible fate awaiting Yi Lingchen. After the warriors department arrest you, I'll make sure to take good care of you. Sun Chao limped over and started to list out Yi Lingchen's offenses. Yeezy, just relax. We will be your witness even if it means putting our lives on the line. We believe in the warriors department. Those two are but black sheep. That's right, Yeezy, I will be your witness too. Yeezy, if you're framed, I will bring the whole class, and even the school involved to appeal for you. The warriors department is but an organization that trains martial artists. I don't believe that they can do as they like. The students gathered around Yi Lingchen spoke out firmly. That upper-class warrior heard Sun Chao's words, quickly walked over without expressing any opinion. The moment he saw Yi Lingchen, a smile appeared on his cool expressionless face. Brother Yi, I should have known it was you. Lin Ao walked forward and patted Yi Lingchen on the shoulders, smiling. Brother Yi. Sun Chao and Sun Wei both had their minds blown. The color drained from their faces. They exchanged looks, witnessing the bitterness in each other's eyes. This bastard knew someone within the warriors department? And an upper-class warrior at that? Yi Lingchen too broke into a smile and handed the gun in his hand to Lin Ao, big brother Lin. Lin Ao received the gun, then scowled at Sun Chao and Sun Wei. Brother Yi, what happened? Sir martial artist, I can be a witness. Please do not wrongfully accuse Yi Lingchen. Sir martial artist, I represent the girls in the 6th class to report our instructor. The hot-bloodedness of youngsters was fully displayed at that moment. Their face flushed red while retelling the entire story. Sun Chao and Sun Wei's actions incurred a trauma in their hearts. At that moment it finally burst forth. From the beginning to the end, Lin Ao stood straight as a board. Under the scorching sun, he listened quietly. His eyes swept over the students' nervous faces that were filled with anxiety. He stood there for over an hour, listening, his eyes turned red. Attention! When the students calmed down, Lin Ao roared suddenly. The two other martial artists that accompanied him straightened their bodies as well, the three of them straight as a plank. Salute! Synchronized, all three gave everyone a military salute. 5 minutes later, they finally ended the military salute. I represent the 3rd branch of the Warriors Department and hereby apologize to everyone. Lin Ao proclaimed, the martial artist is a sacred occupation. The Warriors Training Association was created to protect our country and our people. Never had I imagined that within the ranks of martial artists would be these black sheep. This is my negligence. For the injuries you have suffered, I am sorry. Finishing his words, he once again put on a military salute. I can guarantee that martial artists are still sacred, please believe me. We believe. Lil Jen led the cheer and was immediately followed by thunderous applause from the crowd. As the incident involved guns, it was considered a severe infraction. Lin Ao had everyone keep the incident under wraps, and reported it as an electric bike's battery malfunction which led to an explosion. At the same time, Yi Lingchen filled in a form to transfer his martial training to a different location. Brother Yi, I need to thank you for this, Lin Ao said sincerely. All the while, he was still plagued with guilt. The Warriors Department cannot be stained. If not for Yi Lingchen, who knew how long Sun Chao and Sun Wei would have had their way, how many more students would have to suffer their torment? The fear of such a situation lingered. Big brother Lin, be more optimistic. This incident is unrelated to you. Yi Lingchen nodded. From Lin Ao, he could see the shadow of most martial artists. With such a group of people, would China fear outsiders? I still can't let this go, Lin Ao sighed. I will surely remember this incident. Martial artists are our roots, we can't let it decay. After a moment of silence, Lin Ao added, right, you should go pack up. I'll bring you over to our ranks. We're going today? Yi Lingchen's mouth opened wide with surprise. It was already 7 p.m. The original plan was to come over this morning, but we faced some delays. Lin Ao made a gesture. Don't forget, I'm not your superior. This is an order. Yes, sir, Yi Lingchen saluted, playing along. The jeep accelerated forth. Along the way, the four of them stopped by a stall by the road for their dinner before continuing onwards. Big brother Lin, what do you plan to do with Sun Chao and Sun Wei? Yi Lingchen asked during the ride. Speaking of those two, Lin Ao's face once again turned gloomy. Sun Chao bullied students during martial training. He's already racked up quite a bad record. That should be at least 20 years of imprisonment for him. Sun Wei not only protected him but also abused his authority and used a gun for personal matters. His offenses are even greater. Even if he is spared from death, life imprisonment is unavoidable. Ye Lingchen nodded, then continued his query, Big Brother Lin, what is the Blue Wolf Special Training? Blue Wolf Special Training is one of the special training regimes provided by the Warriors Department, located in the Xihai Province. Apart from that, Northern Division Special Training located within Capital City is named Coiled Dragon. Eastern Division Special Training located within Zhongbei Province is named Ferocious Tiger. Lastly, the Southern Division Special Training located in Weizhou Province is named Hunting Eagle. Altogether, they represent the qualities of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Howling Wolf and Eagle Vision. Lin Ao paused, then started evaluating Ye Lingchen. Brother Ye. Sun Wei had gone through 1 month of training in the Blue Wolf Special Training. His combat power was admirable. Though it was not surprising that you could defeat him, but you managed to disarm him while he's holding a gun. That is an amazing feat. That was a gun. Against the fleshy body of a human, how can it compare? I was just lucky. Ye Lingchen rubbed his nose. He still had lingering fear when he recalled the incident. After a brief exchange, Ye Lingchen learned that Lin Ao had similarly gone through special training, but instead of Blue Wolf, he underwent Coiled Dragon training within Capital City. The 4 special training camps had no special advantage over another, but there were still some competition between them. Duels were common. All 4 training camps will recruit a set number of martial artists. These martial artists were all elites from within the Warriors Department. Only those that passed through rigorous selection had the chance to join the special training. However, just taking part in the special training did not guarantee their position in the camp. For example, 10 candidates may go through the Blue Wolf special training, but in the end, only one may officially join them. Be it Lin Ao or Sun Wei, they both did not manage to make it into the special class of martial artists. Regardless, even if one just took part in the special training, that person's abilities and potential will be far beyond any ordinary martial artist. 9 p.m., the car finally drove into a compound within the suburbs. The compound was in a rural area within the woods. There were no roads within a 5-kilometer radius. If Ye Lingchen came alone, he would have never found the place. The compound looked a little run down. Part of the walls was falling apart, as though suffering from many years of neglect. It was designed with the classic Saheiyuan style. At night, the compound was covered in pitch-black darkness as it had no lights. Their arrival broke the stillness of that place. By the light from the car, Ye Linggen could see a middle-aged man standing beneath the eaves of the building. Square-faced with a height of 175 centimeters, muscular stature. That person gave off a fearsome feeling from just standing there. That is Fang Hong, the person in charge of this division. He's a conservative person with a strict personality. Ranked at lower class guardian. Please watch your words in front of him. Lin Ao reminded him quietly before getting off the car in a careful manner. Ye Lingchen nodded in response. For Lin Ao to describe a person as such, this middle-aged man was not just any regular conservative Joe. Most importantly, he was lower class guardian. That's one major rank higher than Lin Ao. Chief Fang, you're still up at this hour? Lin Ao greeted with a smile, then pushed Ye Lingchen forward. This here is the brother Ye I've mentioned previously. Fang Hong just gave a muffled acknowledgement after eyeing Ye Lingchen, making no further comments. Chief Fang greeted Ye Lingchen. Right, Chief Fang. Where are the others? Asked Lin Ao after he looked around. They have went for a weighted hike. You won't see them before 11 p.m. tonight, replied Fang Hong casually. Ye Lingchen's heart skipped a beat, then raised his eyes to look at the contours of the tall mountain in the distance. The mountain is tall, and that weighted part. Just how heavy would it be? Lin Ao was used to this. He asked normally, something happened in Capital University campus when I was there. Following that, he reiterated the incident of Sun Chao and Sun Wei from earlier. Fang Hong's originally stern face turned all the more dark and gloomy. Ye Lingchen could feel a strong killing intent emanating from his body. You defeated Sun Wei? Fang Hong finally looked directly at Ye Lingchen. Ye Lingchen nodded. Not bad, to weed out the trash from our warriors department. You have done us a meritorious service. I will personally put this on the records for you. After a momentary pause, he continued, send Sun Wei and Sun Chao to the lockup. Since I'm free at the moment, I can give them a nice interrogation. Having said that, he turned around and left. The 2 martial artists beside Lin Ao dared not delay and immediately started escorting Sun Wei and Sun Chao over. These two are in serious trouble, Lin Ao shrugged, commenting with a tone of enjoyment over their suffering. Chief Fang hated those dishonorable acts. What more when this type of people appeared within the warriors department, and such a heinous one at that. Brother Yi, I'll bring you to your room. Rest well tonight and you'll be joining the troop in their training tomorrow. Big brother Lin, they are still doing a weighted hike at this hour? Is the training so cruel? That exercising will help you get better sleep. Worry not, you will most likely sleep before midnight. For the weights. How heavy is it? Cough cough, not that heavy, not even 100 kilograms yet. Be a bit more specific. 99.9 kilogram. Yi Lingchen had the notion that he had been completely blindsided by Lin Ao. Compared to the normal martial training, this was clearly hell. The next day, while the moon was still in the sky, Yi Lingchen was woken up by a shrill whistle. Glancing at the time, it was 4 in the morning. Usually, he would wake up at 5 for his morning exercises, but he did not expect that it was this early. After quickly putting on some clothes and washing up, Yi Lingchen rushed to the gathering point. Today, we've got a newbie for everyone to get to know. Fang Hong made Yi Lingchen stand in front of the group. Introduce yourself. My name is Yi Lingchen. I'll be in your care, said Yi Lingchen simply. This training group had 15 people in it, including Yi Lingchen. It was now 16. The others appraised Yi Lingchen curiously. With a babyish face, and pale, smooth skin, he did not look like martial artist material. They could not help but not take him seriously. Surely he couldn't have gotten in based on some connection? Fang Hong handed 4 sandbags at Yi Lingchen. These are wrist and ankle weights. Put them on, and fall in. The 4 sandbags did not look cumbersome, as they were thin and flat. They seemed to have only one metal plate in them. However, when Yi Lingchen took them from Fang Hong's hands, his shoulders suddenly sagged from the weight. He, fortunately, steadied himself in time, or else he would have embarrassed himself. These. Yi Lingchen looked at the sandbags incredulously. These sandbags are filled with a hyperdense material. They look small but are extremely heavy. The red ones are for the ankles. Each of them weighed 15 kilograms. The green ones are for your wrists. They weighed 10 kilograms each. During training, they are not to leave your body. You may not even take them off when you sleep. Lin Ao explained from one side. The 4 sandbags cumulatively weighed 50 kilograms. If an ordinary person were to put them on, the question would not be if they could move, but whether or not they could even stand in the first place. Yi Lingchen took a deep breath and wrapped the sandbags around his ankles and wrists. He immediately felt the heaviness on his hands, dragging down his shoulders and nearly making him bend at his waist. He lifted his legs, and they felt as though they were made of lead. Usually, they were nimble and fast, but now he felt that he would not even compare to an ordinary person. Brutal, this was just too brutal, Yi Lingchen exclaimed in his heart. At the same time, a sense of anticipation slowly welled up within him. He originally thought that he had reached the pinnacle of his martial prowess. However, today had let him see that there was yet another peak to be attained through this form of training. If he trained his martial arts with the weights on, it would improve his speed and power exponentially. Why didn't he think of this before? Yi Lingchen took some time to acclimatize to the weight and walked with great difficulty to fall in with the group. It's already pretty good that you can walk on your first time, said Fang Hong bluntly, before turning to look at the group. Begin the training. Item 1. Obstacle course. Run in step to the field. Yi Lingchen straggled at the tail end of the group while he was still getting used to the weights. As they passed the courtyard, the scene opened up before his eyes. It was like another world, a massive training area. There was a shooting range, a boxing ring, and a multitude of obstacle courses. A conservative estimate would still put this place at the very least 5 acres in size. The group stopped at the obstacle course. Fang Hong and Lin Ao stood nearby and observed. Lin Ao, that kid you brought is too young. He must still be a student. Can he handle my training? Asked Fang Hong. Lin Ao looked at Yi Lingchen. I think so. That kid is good with his fists. Even I am not a match for him. Fang Hong shook his head. That just means he has explosive power and good technique. It doesn't mean everything. To be a true master, besides your skill, you need endurance, insight, and adaptability. Furthermore, you need to be able to survive in any environment as well as be an able diver. Camouflage and marksmanship are also the most important skills. When heaven opens one door, naturally another one must close. The world is full of specialists who are naturally good at one thing but are not well-rounded. I think he can make it, said Lin Ao with a smile. Fang Hong did not reply but turned to look at the field. The obstacle course had already begun. There were 4 phases in the course. The first was a 15-meter rush up a 60-degree incline before jumping off the edge, then a belly crawl under electrified wire. After getting through the wire, before scaling a 25-meter high rock wall. At the end of it, there was still a gap to be crossed with a plum pile. The plum pile was 100 meters long, but the scariest part was that it was also 25 meters off the ground. From that height, a fall could mean death. At the end of the pile of plums was a rope from which to rappel down to the ground to complete the course. Under normal circumstances, this obstacle course might be scary, but Yi Lingchen would not be deterred. However, his limbs were currently weighed down by the weights. That was what was terrifying. He already had trouble with normal movement. How would he navigate the obstacle course? The others were already beginning their charge forward. Only Yi Lingchen still stood there, gawking. This was his first time here, and he did not know a thing. How would he complete such a difficult training course on his first day? He closely observed everyone's actions, hoping to rely on the Prodigy system to learn something. However, the Prodigy system's intake speed was painfully slow if it was purely based on observation. The speed of intake was at a fraction a minute and was basically useless. If you lack bravery, you don't belong in these trials. Go home now while you can. Fang Hong frowned at Yi Lingchen, who was still standing there, and called out coldly. Yi Lingchen took a calming breath, steadied his heart, and charged up the slope. Fortunately for him, he normally focused on physical training, and even with the weights, the exertion was not too great. However, when he reached the slope, the difficulty of carrying on had increased infinitely. He pushed his thigh muscles to their limit and they were turning to jelly as he finally made it to the top. However, the next challenge would be a 5-meter drop. Yi Lingchen hopped off the platform, and learning from the others, he landed and rolled on his back for a few rotations, but he still felt pain shooting up his entire body. Crawling through the wire seemed easy, but as Yi Lingchen planted himself on the ground, a wave of heat struck him. The surface of the ground must have exceeded 50 degrees centigrade. Furthermore, the deeper he went, the higher the temperature soared. As he crawled through the wire, Yi Lingchen's body was soaked, sweat pouring out of his pores. Due to the heat of the surface, if he lifted his body it would hit the wire, and his hair immediately stood on end, like a Saiyan. The rock wall and the plum pile would prove to be the greatest challenges for Yi Lingchen. His limbs were gripping onto the rock surface, and it was all he could do to reach upwards. His body plastered to the wall. It felt like he took half a day to move slightly. The brutality of the training was like nothing he had ever experienced before. With great difficulty, he reached the top of the rock wall and stepped onto the plum pile. He hesitated with every step and cautiously shuffled forwards. All of the others had already finished the course long ago and watched Yi Lingchen from below. They could not help but burst out in laughter. Look at him twisting his slender waist. That kid is such a sissy. Look at him. Don't you think it's funny that he just joined our troop midway? He most likely got in through connections. This is unfair. He'll drag the whole troop down by himself. Fang Hong's brows were also deeply furrowed together. Shaking his head, Lin Ao, you should send him back. He's not suitable to be here. Chief Fang, Yi Lingchen's still not used to it since it's his first try after all. He should be able to adapt to it quickly, Lin Ao said in his defense. Fang Hong had a gloomy expression, said coldly, my troop is not for him to adapt himself. As a greenhorn, Yi Lingchen's performance is somewhat passable. Fang Hong changed his tone drastically all of a sudden, but he should be sent to a martial artist foundation training camp instead of my place. He's lacking too much. Him being here would only drag others down. I don't have the time nor energy to slowly guide him. But, Lin Ao was about to try persuading further, but Fang Hong just waved him off. There's no need for words. You should know how precious their training time is. This affects the future of all those present. You wouldn't want us all to wait for Yi Lingchen alone, would you? Lin Ao sighed, then kept silent. At that moment, Yi Lingchen finally finished the course and slowly walked towards the group. Due to the electrocution, his hair was standing upright. There were parts of him that were charred. His body was muddied all over and face covered in dust. He looked extremely disheveled. Seeing him in such a sorry state, the others once again burst into fits of laughter. Hey Gigolo, go back to where you came from. This is not the place for you. A dark-skinned martial artist laughed aloud. Yi Lingchen had paid attention to him. He was the first to finish the course with extreme speed. This dark-skinned martial artist could be considered amongst the best amongst this troupe. You should return home, Fang Hong told Yi Lingchen calmly. After that, he turned around to face the others. Attention, next on the menu is shooting. Get in the shooting range. As expected, those who come in via connections can't last long. The group shook their heads. In front of Fang Hong, the power of one's connections did not matter. Hold on, surprisingly, a single shout managed to halt everyone's footsteps. Fang Hong glared at Yi Lingchen. If you're thinking of begging me to let you stay, then forget about it. That was my first time, so I'm unfamiliar with it. If we do it again, I'll definitely place first. Yi Lingchen calmly exchanged gaze with Fang Hong. Fuck, you want to get first place? Did you even think I'd let you? The dark-skinned martial artist snapped at him. What nonsense. Utter shameless nonsense. You just tried it once and you want to place first. This kid is a confirmed nutcase, a delusional nutcase. Fang Hong was at first stunned, then started laughing uncontrollably. Kid, do you know how long they have been training here? Fang Hong looked at Yi Lingchen. They each had to go through 5 years or more of training in the Warriors department before they even qualified to train here. Furthermore, they have been doing this type of training for over 3 months. You're just a greenhorn, yet you're thinking of placing first? Yi Lingchen spoke out clearly, one word at a time. I am different from them. Fuck, this wuss is trying to act tough. We need to show him who's boss or he'll let this go over his head. The dark-skinned martial artist walked forward out of formation, saluted Fang Hong, then spoke out, Chief, please give the order to let me compete with him. Fang Hong looked at the confident Yi Lingchen, hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. Wu Yu had always placed first for the obstacle course. If you can defeat him, I'll let you stay. Wu Yu grinned, then stared at Yi Lingchen. Kid, all these years in my life I've never seen someone as arrogant as you are. You did not deserve to compete with me, but your attitude is beyond what I can tolerate. Yi Lingchen suddenly changed his demeanor and looked towards Lin Ao. Big brother Lin, can you please teach me about the techniques to this obstacle course? Lin Ao was flabbergasted. He did not understand why Yi Lingchen, who was just so prideful and arrogant just a moment ago, would turn to him for guidance. The rest were similarly stunned. Wu Yu laughed indignantly. Kid, are you having a laugh? Is this a last-ditch effort? Fang Hong's face was turning ugly from his rage. This is not a place for you to fool around. Do not test my patience. I just need a simple explanation. I guarantee it will not take too much time, said Yi Lingchen, and then turned to look at Lin Ao. Lin Ao was at a loss for what Yi Lingchen was planning, but he went along. When you climb the hill, lower your legs slightly and slant your waist forward. You need to learn how to follow the momentum. Each step is to build up for the following step. As for jumping down from a high spot, you should start adjusting while you're mid-air. At the same time, Yi Lingchen's proficiency level was rising like crazy. Obtained guidance from Lin Ao, obstacle course proficiency +1. Obtained guidance from Lin Ao, obstacle course proficiency +1. Obtained guidance from Lin Ao, obstacle course proficiency +1. 5 minutes later, the obstacle course proficiency was capped off at 60%. It would seem that Lin Ao's limit was only at 60%. Alright, let's begin. Yi Lingchen smiled gently, his demeanor changed drastically. He styled his Super Saiyan-like hair and walked confidently towards the starting point. That's it. Done? They understood the stuff that Lin Ao explained. It could be said that those were the basics of basic knowledge. It contained no special techniques. As for the kid's sudden confidence, it was baffling. What can you change in 5 minutes? Wu Yu sneered. This kid won't understand unless it's spelled out for him. Ready. Fang Hong stood on the spot and gave the signal, start. Just as he gave the signal, Yi Lingchen and Wu Yu both stood on the spot, unmoving. Kid, why didn't you go? Wu Yu asked curiously. I planned to give you a 5-minute head start. Yi Lingchen gave a generous hand wave. What? Wu Yu's eyes popped wide open, stunned from the shock. I was also planning to give you a 5-minute head start as well. Oh, please don't be humble with me. Once I start, you might start crying, Yi Lingchen replied half-heartedly. Even though he looked terrible at the moment, there was an air of superiority about him, giving off the impression that he was a grandmaster. That's an eye-opener for sure. Is this the legendary forced bullshitting? This kid is a pro at bullshitting. If not for his previous performance, I almost wanted to believe him. The ultimate form of bullshitting is when you believe your own bullshit, and this kid has done it. Wu Yu's already dark face turned even darker. Since you're asking for death, then don't blame me. Having said that, he raised his feet and dashed forward. He was fast. The sandbags on his body were like nothing. Without pause, he navigated past the obstacles as if he were on flat ground. Everyone watched as Wu Yu ran onwards while Yi Lingchen started warming up. He occasionally rotated his body and neck, looking as calm as ever. Even Lin Ao could not bear to watch this anymore, helplessly pressing his palm to his face. This guy, just what was he up to? 5 minutes up. Yi Lingchen got accustomed to the weights. By that time, Wu Yu had already begun climbing. Dash! At that moment, his body lowered, then sprinted forth like a cheetah. Rushing up the slope, then jumping down directly in one breath in less than 10 seconds. Fast. Really fast. The crowd that did not think much of him was stunned. Their eyes wide with disbelief, too shocked for words. Yi Lingchen's performance was completely different from what they imagined earlier. Fang Hong's expression darkened, his gaze glued onto Yi Lingchen. Next, crawling, Yi Lingchen twisted his body, slithering forward like a snake. His speed was not much slower than walking upright. 20 seconds, electric fence obstacle course complete. Up next, climbing, Yi Lingchen was like a monkey. Using all his limbs, his body was as though it were weightless, rushing upwards at high speed. At the same time, Wu Yu finally climbed to the peak, his face showing a confident smile. His attempt at the obstacle course was almost perfect, even faster than his previous record by 30%. That kid should be despairing now. Looking at his comrades, he saw the shocked expression on their faces. Even Chief Fang showed an astonished expression. He felt immensely prideful. Are you surprised to finally see what's really amazing? I am the man that's destined to be the king of martial artists. Due to the pride he felt, he raised his hand to wave at the crowd with a smile on his face. However, nobody reacted to his waving. Instead, the shock on their face was only growing. Fuck, finally, somebody could not hold it in any longer. Right after that, fuck, everyone blurted out in surprise, followed with their mouths opened wide, standing still like a statue. What's all the fucks for? Wu Yu was flabbergasted. Just as he turned around, he felt a gust of wind rushing past, as though a shadow just flashed by. Where's that kid? Wu Yu looked behind him, unable to see Yi Lingchen. Turning around, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He could see a figure jumping up and down on the high pillars, progressing at an unimaginable speed. 100 meters of high pillars were cleared within half a minute. Finally, he could no longer hold it in, similarly blurted out in surprise, fuck. Up to the moment Yi Lingchen landed on the ground, the crowd was still dazed. That included Lin Ao and Fang Hong. Chief Fang, how was that? Yi Lingchen walked up to Fang Hong and asked with a smile. Only then did Fang Hong snap out of his daze. Closing his open mouth with his hand, he coughed and spoke coldly, not bad, I'll consider that as a pass. The rest recovered as well, all looking at Yi Lingchen in surprise. Lin Ao took in a deep breath. His fingers pointed at Yi Lingchen, at a loss for words. In fact, they all felt that Yi Lingchen's previous blunder was all an act. Otherwise, how could he have performed as though he were a completely different person? To become this amazing from just listening to one round of teaching? No way. That was not logical. Wu Yu instead was still standing up at the peak unmoving. His brain circuits were unable to cope with the sudden turn of events. Finally, with a thump, he knelt on the ground, looking towards the distant horizon in tears. You, how can you be that amazing all of a sudden? Lin Ao finally asked with a trembling voice. The same question that was in the mind of everyone else. Didn't you just teach me? Yi Lingchen replied calm as ever, as though it was nothing special. I did teach you, but… Lin Ao was speechless. I did just teach you, but it feels like I am not as great as you are. Wu Yu, stop crying. Come down quickly and head to the second round of training. Fang Hong raised his head and shouted at Wu Yu who was still up there. Oh, yes sir. Wu Yu finally came down after wiping his tears. His eyes were red, with tear marks running down both sides of his face. It was obvious he had suffered quite a shock. The crowd jogged all the way to the shooting range. It was big, spacious, and empty. Yi Lingchen was still looking at the shooting range when he heard Wu Yu's shout as he walked up to him. At that moment, this dark man had dried his tears and his eyes were instead filled with fighting spirit. He said in a serious tone, "I admit that you cleared the obstacle course faster than me, but I will surpass you in the future. This time, I will definitely not lose to you in shooting." "Oh, you're awesome. Remember to do your best, yo," replied Yi Lingchen calmly, then walked past Wu Yu's side. That casual demeanor further increased Wu Yu's feeling of humiliation. His face flushed red, roaring out loud, "Yi Lingchen. This is a serious matter. Just you watch." He walked up to the shooting counter in all seriousness and started checking the gun in a practiced manner. It was an average pistol with 10 bullets in it. Everyone else did the same. Yi Lingchen followed suit and picked up the gun in front of him in a similar fashion. Everyone has 10 rounds. Ready, everyone raised their guns and got into a standard firing position. Only Yi Lingchen was in an awkward position. Fang Hong frowned. "Zero shooting experience. He's just a student. He can't have come into contact with a gun," Lin Ao replied. "In terms of shooting, I will guide him." Fang Hong's attitude had changed drastically, now filled with anticipation. This kid is good martial artist material. If trained well, he might turn out to be a trump card for our country. Begin shooting, bang, bang. 5 minutes later, everyone had finished their 10 shots. After that, the shooting scores were displayed on a digital screen. First, Wu Yu. 5 10-point rings, 5 9-point rings, total score 95 point. That score was immediately met with a cheer from the crowd. It's Wu Yu after all. His shooting score was always steady, awesome. If he improves a little more, he will be at the no-miss level. He's not far from being a sharpshooter. At 300 meters, that was already at the maximum range a pistol could aim. Truth be told, an average police officer's shooting training did not go over 100 meters. Yet Wu Yu was able to achieve the lowest score of 9 point. That was already unbelievably scary. Not bad, but towards the last 5 shots, there was a disturbance in your mind. Your unstable emotions stopped you from hitting 10 points. Prioritize your attitude. Under all circumstances, you must remain calm. Understand? Remarked Fang Hong. Thank you, Chief, for your advice. Wu Yu saluted, then looked towards Yi Lingchen. His eyes were gleaming with pride. Ha ha ha, I'm the #1 shooter. After that, the other scores were displayed one by one. They were all the cream of the crop of the martial artists. The worst results were one that shot the 7-point ring once. The majority of them were either 8 points or 9 points. The result was considered decent. However, everyone was waiting for Yi Lingchen's score. He did, after all, left quite an impression on them, and finally. Yi Lingchen, 1 3-point ring, 3 2-point rings, 5 1-point rings, and 1 missed the target. Total score 14 point. Fuck, how far off was that? Is this for real? Is he faking it again? Look, that kid is walking towards the instructor. Both Lin Ao and Fang Hong stared at Yi Lingchen, displaying funny expressions. Brother Yi, you need me to teach you again? Asked Lin Ao. That's right. I would like to have big brother Lin to teach me how to shoot, Yi Lingchen nodded in reply. Lin Ao felt his heart racing. To be honest, he was starting to feel afraid of teaching Yi Lingchen. In shooting, you must first learn how to hold the gun. This is a pistol. You support it with your arm, holding it tight with both hands. The key to aiming is to focus. When you're shooting, your grip must be tight and not let the recoil affect you. Received guidance from Lin Ao, shooting proficiency +1. Received guidance from Lin Ao, shooting proficiency +1. Received guidance from Lin Ao, shooting proficiency +1. This time around the proficiency level only went up to 50%. Yi Lingchen thought that it had to do with the gun type. After all, Lin Ao had only taught him how to shoot a pistol. However, that should be sufficient. Just 5 minutes later, Yi Lingchen nodded and walked back towards the shooting range. You've learned it again? Asked Lin Ao. The others also had their attention on Yi Lingchen as their hearts raced. I guess so, Yi Lingchen replied casually. I'm ready to give it a try. I don't believe that you can learn how to shoot that quickly, shouted Wu Yu. Yi Lingchen's performance had pushed his worldview to its limits. He was trying his best to protect what was left of his understanding of this world. Chief Fang, please let me compete with Yi Lingchen in shooting. You still want to compete with me? Asked Yi Lingchen in astonishment. Wu Yu kept a stern face. Compete? I must compete. Both of them reached the shooting range at the same time. That moment, the entire world turned silent. Everyone, including Fang Hong, observed the shooting range with great anticipation, trying to keep their breathing quiet. Who do you think will win this time? Logically it should be Wu Yu, but I feel that the kid was just acting dumb, as he had done before. I have that feeling too. That kid is just too abnormal. Lin Ao, what do you think? Asked Fang Hong while standing on the observation platform. Lin Ao kept his silence for some time, then shook his head. Brother Yi's quick progress on the obstacle course might be due to his ability to fight. He's a martial arts practitioner after all, so his physique gave him an advantage. However, shooting and martial arts are two very different things. This time, the improvements might not be as much. Fang Hong nodded in acknowledgement. He won't be in contact with guns under normal circumstances. He's a greenhorn at this. No foundation, no advantage. This time, the results should be obvious. Shooting may seem simple, but it required a variety of knowledge, especially when it came to details that require regular practice. It was not something that could be achieved with just a few words or within a short time. Bang, bang, bang. Right at that moment, gunshots were heard. Yi Lingchen did not move. It was Wu Yu that fired first. This time, Wu Yu's eyes did not blink at all. He adjusted his breathing and mentality to its absolute peak. That was a battle with his honor on the line. His goal was to be the king of martial artists. Losing was not an option. After every shot, he would take a deep breath. It was to calm his nerves so he could be in peak condition. Wu Yu did not hurry, firing one shot after another. Wu Yu is definitely good martial artist material. Fang Hong nodded in acknowledgement. In this troop that he led, however, Wu Yu was the one he was most satisfied with. This person had a natural advantage in terms of physique, and his learning speed was promising. There were always obvious improvements after every instruction given. Most importantly, his passion to be the king of martial artists. Talent and effort added together was an incredibly terrifying thing. Yi Lingchen's impact on him was great. It triggered his competitiveness. Hopefully, after winning this shooting competition, he would be able to readjust his attitude, continued Fang Hong. Lin Ao kept quiet. He felt that the script would be quite different from what Fang Hong had expected. Finally, the shooting stopped. Wu Yu let out a breath of relief and wiped his sweaty forehead, his eyes staring directly on the screen. The rest were also holding their breath, awaiting the results. Wu Yu, 8 10-point rings, 2 9-point rings. Total score 98 points. Wah! In an instant, everyone was stunned, followed by cries of amazement. Amazing! This is just too amazing. This result is worthy of the title of a sharpshooter. That's Wu Yu for you. That's setting a historical record right there. As the saying goes, there will be no motivation without pressure. A serious Wu Yu is terrifying. Both Fang Hong and Lin Ao nodded. This kind of result was sufficient to make it into the 4 special training camp of the Warriors Department. Kid, just admit your loss. Wu Yu finally let go off the burden within him. In high spirits, he threw a smile at Yi Lingchen. He felt that he had finally cleared his previous humiliation. My turn. Yi Lingchen did not make any reaction but instead wiped the pistol in his hand. HMPH, stubborn, I want to see how you can turn the situation around now. With such wonderful scores in front of them, none had any confidence in Yi Lingchen. Pistol raised, aimed, bang, 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 10 consecutive shots without a moment's pause in between, one right after the other. He must be crazy. Every shot has its recoil and he did not pause in between. The following shots would be impossible to aim straight. No matter who fired the gun, there should be at least half a second's pause to realign. He seems to be half-hearted. Was he playing around? I think he just gave up. After all, Wu Yu's score was impossible to beat. Fang Hong too shook his head and sighed. Such half-hearted shooting was an insult to all martial artists. Yi Lingchen's attitude was still lacking, he thought. However, when he shifted his gaze to the score on the screen, it made him jump. His eyes widened so much his eyeballs almost popped out. The rest were similarly shocked. Their bodies trembled and jaws dropped. Yi Lingchen. 9 10-point rings, 1 9-point ring. Total score of 99. F. Fuck. Wu Yu's lips trembled, his eyes bloodshot. He had started to doubt his own life. Nevertheless, Yi Lingchen frowned slightly. His hand started feeling around the pistol as though he was disappointed with his score. Finally, his gaze fell upon the crosshair of the pistol. He shook his head, calmly stating, "This pistol's crosshair is defective, it's inaccurate." Inaccurate? His words made everyone's heart race. Fang Hong rubbed his face that was stiff from astonishment, then walked over and explained, "Our guns are all specially manufactured. Accuracy is not an issue." Yi Lingchen shook his head, then carefully inspected the crosshair. After that, he started fidgeting with it. Everyone was flabbergasted. From the crosshairs, a speck of rust came off. The rust was very small but sufficient to block off a part of the crosshair's field of vision and affect the accuracy. Fang Hong was stunned. That attention to detail and observation skill was not normal. Even he would not have discovered it. Yi Lingchen was finally satisfied and nodded. "Now this is much better, let me try again." Having said that, he reloaded in a practiced manner and aimed. Bang, 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 another 10 consecutive gunshots. Everyone stood perfectly still on the spot, waiting for the score to be displayed on the screen. Yi Lingchen. 10 10-point reigns, total score of 100. The crowd's mouth dried up. They could only feel numbness in their heart. At that moment, they were at a loss on what expressions or words to express their inner feelings. Wu Yu stared at that impossible score with his whole body shaking. Again with a thump, he knelt on the floor, tears flowing out in torrents. Countless words merged into a single lamentation. "Fuck, this is fucking crazy. Brother Yi, did you really learn this from me?" Lin Ao was dumbfounded as well. He had begun to suspect if his superpower was to educate others. "That's right." Yi Lingchen nodded honestly. "Why do I feel like you're just toying with me?" Lin Ao looked at Yi Lingchen suspiciously. Yi Lingchen immediately shook his head, reassuring him, "Definitely not." The third training session was to practice martial fist. The warriors department was no doubt very powerful. Hence, the martial fist that was taught to all martial artists was a collection of specialty from many schools. Rumor has it that martial fist incorporated various moves from ancient Chinese martial arts. It was then studied by over 100 martial arts experts over a year before concluding its creation. All in all, martial fist was easy to practice and is effective in fights. The movesets may be lacking, but in actual combat, it was the most efficient. Yi Lingchen had never learned martial fist before, therefore he just sat and watched from the side. Observing martial fist proficiency +1. Observing martial fist proficiency +1. Observing martial fist proficiency +1. Very quickly, the moves of martial fist were all memorized by him. Yi Lingchen was confident that he could perform better than everyone else. However, to avoid surprising everyone, he chose to lay low and stood at the side and observed them. If he hurt the feelings of these people right here, that would be a great sin. At the other end of the training ground, Fang Hong was in a great mood. His stern face showed a rare smile, and that smile did not fade away. "Lin Ao, you have managed to find a very good seedling for the warriors department this time." He finally spoke out after a momentary pause. "I will recommend him into Coiled Dragon." Lin Ao shook his head with a bitter smile. "Chief Fang, you're being too optimistic. This guy has no interest in becoming a martial artist." "What?" Fang Hong's eyes widened. Not only can a martial artist protect the country, but there are also special rights they receive that can help protect loved ones. He doesn't want that? "I have tried advising him before, but he claims that he is used to the easy life and does not wish to be tied down," Lin Ao continued. "I too thought he was good martial artist material. That was why I sent him here for you to train during his martial training period." "Martial training? He's still in school." It was obvious that Fang Hong did not pay Yi Lingchen much notice previously. "First-year student at Capital University." Lin Ao kept silent for a moment. "Furthermore, as I have said before, he's good at fighting. Very good at it." "How does he compare to you?" "I was not his match for even one move." Gasp! Fang Hong gasped a cold breath. His eyes stealthily swept over at Yi Lingchen. He stated firmly, "It's our country's loss if we let this type of person go from the warriors department. I'll think of a way to convince him." They performed the martial fist for a full 3 rounds before finally stopping. By then it was already almost noon. After lunch, they had another hour of break time before the weighted hike training in the afternoon. However, just as everyone stood still awaiting Fang Hong's dismissal, Yi Lingchen, who was just sitting by the side, stood up suddenly. His expression was rather gloomy. Even when he was mocked, his expression was not as ugly. Both Fang Hong and Lin Ao frowned, not saying anything, They just stood there quietly observing Yi Lingchen. Martial artists had always been the pride of the Chinese people. It's the backbone of the entire nation. Yi Lingchen's face displayed a sternness that was never seen before. Before I visited this place, if someone were to ask me what's a martial artist, I would say that a martial artist is all-powerful. However, just now, I suddenly feel disappointed, disappointment beyond words. Yi Lingchen's voice was not loud, but it managed to garner the attention of this crowd. All of their burning gazes fell upon him, with many of them scowling. Disappointed? Why are you disappointed? Right now, if someone were to ask me what is a martial artist, I would say, trash. At least that's how you are in my eyes. All 15 martial artists there started breathing heavily. Their furious stares locked onto Yi Lingchen, each of their face burning red hot. Humiliation. Extreme humiliation. Wu Yu took a step forward, his eyes burning with rage as he stared at Yi Lingchen, shouting furiously, "I'll admit that you are very capable. But that doesn't mean you can humiliate us just like that." Humiliate you? No, no, no. The one doing the humiliation is you yourselves. You guys don't even deserve my humiliation. Rustle. At that moment, everyone had their fists gripped tightly, their bodies slanting forward, as though ready to dash forth and fight Yi Lingchen to death. Lin Ao was about to step in but was pulled back by Fang Hong. "Don't go. Let him speak." "What's this? You're not convinced?" Yi Lingen smiled. He pointed at them, saying, "Want to beat me? Sure, I'll give you this chance. Just earlier I watched you perform the martial fist, and I've learned a thing or two. I'll fight you guys with martial fist." Yi Lingchen's tiger-like eyes swept through the entire troop. "You can choose to go one-on-one, or all at once. Come. You're crossing the line." Wu Yu immediately rushed out of formation, his gaze glued onto Yi Lingchen. "I've joined this troop for 11 years. Trained in the martial fist for 11 years. You think you can defeat us after watching it just once? You've trained for 11 years yet you're still this bad at it? No wonder you're trash?" Yi Lingchen's casual tone immediately caused Wu Yu's eyes to turn red and he immediately rushed forward with a roar. Ha! Striking like the wind. However, Yi Lingchen only stretched out one hand, catching Wu Yu's fist and twisted slightly. Wu Yu's entire body felt powerless, unable to muster any strength. After that, Yi Lingchen swept with his leg, causing Wu Yu to fall facing the sky. The technique Yi Lingchen used was the grappling hold of the martial fist. He easily nullified Wu Yu's attacks and subdued him. "This is the result of 11 years of training?" Yi Lingchen asked Wu Yu, giving him a condescending look. I. Wu Yu dejectedly, at a loss for words. Anyone else still unconvinced? Yi Lingchen eyed the crowd. At that moment, those who were on the verge of challenging him went silent, avoiding Yi Lingchen's gaze. "With that, you're already scared? Running away? Turns out it was praised to call you guys trash?" Yi Lingchen's expression turned serious. "We are not trash," shouted someone. "We are not trash." This time, all 15 roared in unison with a booming voice. "At least there's still some fighting spirit." Yi Lingchen nodded. "However, this fighting spirit should not be spent on shouting. It should be used in training and on the battlefield. You know why I said you're all trash? That's because you are lazy." Yi Lingchen's gaze swept across their faces. "You think that just because you start early and end late, training according to plan, it's considered putting in effort? Wrong, absolutely wrong. Training needs to show results. Your martial fist moves were not meeting standards. Every punch lacked power. Is this what you meant by training? Instead of wasting time like that, you might as well disband and head home early." Yi Lingchen was furious. The reason for his rage was due to watching them practice so casually. Despite having 15 people practicing, Yi Lingchen's martial fist proficiency only raised to 20%. From that, one can tell how bad their mastery over martial fist was. The scene went silent. Some were ashamed, some unconvinced. "What's the main objective of your training? Is it the training course, training time, training intensity?" "None of the above," Yi Lingchen said coldly. "It's spirit? It's a person's spirit. You were only completing the daily training like a machine. Even if you were given more time, you will not improve an inch. Isn't that the same as trash?" Yi Lingchen looked at them. "There are people from the same batch that's been chosen to enter the 4 special training camps, right?" Everyone nodded. "In the same batch, why did they manage to enter while you couldn't?" Yi Lingchen said ruthlessly. "Compared to them you're the rejects, failures." Some started breathing heavily, some had their eyes reddened, but nobody spoke up. You tell me, are rejected failures not trash? Nobody answered. Everyone's faces were flushed red as blood rushed to their faces. The humiliation was eating them up inside, making them extremely embarrassed. Why did others manage to do it while we can't? What was once a comrade, would now look down on themselves from a higher place. As for themselves, why could they not stand above others? You are too easily content. Are you proud of yourselves for becoming martial artists? Did you think that with such daily training that it's already sufficient? All of them were silent. Everyone was breathing heavily with reddened eyes. I'll ask you again, what is the purpose of your training? I want to be the king of martial artists, shouted Wu Yu, his eyes red. I want to protect my country, I want my family to be proud of me. All 15 people spoke up one after another. Wrong. All wrong. Yi Lingchen shouted. It's for yourselves. The more you sweat, the less you bleed. If you don't train wholeheartedly, entering the battlefield will cost you your life. Everyone, including Lin Ao and Fang Hong, felt blood rushing to their faces, turning them red. It may be due to the surrounding martial artist, or it could be his sudden inspiration. Yi Lingchen could not control himself but to pour forth with this potful of chicken soup for the soul for everyone. We understand our mistake. Wu Yu's body trembled, straining his voice and his face reddened as he shouted. What's your mistake? Asked Yi Lingchen. Training is for ourselves. It's not for missions but our lives. We need to pour in all our efforts wholeheartedly, shouted Wu Yu while standing straight as a plank. The rest were also showing an expression of utmost dedication, their eyes gleaming when looking at Yi Lingchen. Yi Lingchen nodded. Good, only by raising your spirits will your training show results. Remember your dream to finish. You must always remember your current condition. Affirmative. 15 martial artists shouted in unison, their voice thundering. Yi Lingchen coughed, then with an awkward expression took a peek at Fang Hong. This is bad. Acting cool was fun, but now it's a little hard to wrap up. Fang Hong threw a glance at Yi Lingchen. His face lit up with a smile. It's fine. Morning training is over. Go for your lunch. Chief Fang, we are not tired and wish to continue. Wu Yu stood still on the spot. That's right, Chief Fang. Earlier I didn't put in all my effort during training. I wish to have another shot at it. The rest were also unmoving. What bullshit is this? How will you have enough energy to train if you don't eat? All that talk about fighting spirit is nonsense. Food comes first, Yi Lingchen scolded from the side. Ha ha ha. Everyone immediately broke into bouts of laughter. What are you laughing about? Go get your food. Yes sir. The troop disbanded. This time, the way they looked at Yi Lingchen was filled with the utmost respect. Chief Fang, I'll be getting some food if there's nothing else. Yi Lingchen got ready to leave. Yet at that moment, Fang Hong exclaimed loudly, Yi Lingchen. Here, Fang Hong looked at Yi Lingchen, smiling with satisfaction. You're quite good. Your words are even more effective than mine now. Yi Lingchen scratched his head. Chief Fang must be joking. No matter how effective my words are, I'd still have to listen to you, right? Did you ever thought of becoming a martial artist? Fang Hong looked Yi Lingchen straight in the eye. Chief Fang, I've just entered university and have no such intentions for now. A fleeting look of disappointment flashed across Fang Hong's eyes. He patted Yi Lingchen on the shoulders. All right. Whenever you wish to, just let me know. Go get your food. Lin Ao grabbed onto Yi Lingchen. Fuck, you sure or something? First time I saw you I thought you're quite the talent, and it is as I predicted. How did you come up with those words? Just voicing out my feelings. Amazing. No wonder you're the top student of Capital University. Your words brought out the passion within me. Lin Ao laughed out loud, then dragged him along to have lunch. Fang Hong stood where he was, muttering away, the more you sweat, the less you bleed. Remember your dreams to finish. I need to have someone mark this down. This will be our troop's motto in the future. In the afternoon, it was time for a weighted hike. Under normal circumstances, they would have felt nervous and put on a worried face. On that day, however, everyone was filled with a fighting spirit, eager to begin. Even Lin Ao joined the ranks. The weights they carried were originally at 50 kgs, then added with another 50 kg sandbag on their backs. 50 kgs is not heavy enough. Let me try 70 kgs, Yi Lingchen voiced out after giving it a try. If that's the case I want another 20 kgs as well, Wu Yu too requested instantly. Nonsense. Training has to match your current condition. How can you compare yourself to me? Said Yi Lingchen. Even though he was not a martial artist at that moment, his reputation within the troupe was astounding. Nobody dared to refute his words. Wu Yu scratched his head in embarrassment. I'm not your match now, but you will be my target. I'm still the man who aims to be the king of martial artists. Let's start. They arched their backs and started the hike. Although carrying a heavy burden, they were not showing the slightest hint of discontent. Instead, they followed behind Yi Lingchen step by step with a determined look in their eyes. Fang Hong looked at the backs of the group, his eyes blurry. From this group of people, he found the most important quality of a martial artist, passion. In the blink of an eye, half a month's training ended. After bidding farewell to the group, Lin Ao sent Yi Lingchen back to school. Yi Lingchen did not remove the weights from his limbs after the half-month-long training. Instead, he added another 5 kgs to each limb. When Yi Lingchen opened the dormitory door, his roommates seemed like they just woke up from a dream. They immediately broke into bouts of happy screams. Fuck, Yeezy, you're finally back. I haven't seen you in half a month. You're darker and lost weight, I missed you. How is it? Was the training at the Warriors department suffocating? Yi Lingchen smiled. I'm fine. What about you guys? How was the martial training? Ha ha ha, our class ranked first in the entire university for martial training. Even the university authorities praised us in public. Shang laughed. The new instructor was way better than Sun Chao. Yi Lingchen nodded. What were you guys watching earlier to be that absorbed? Speaking of that, all three of them revealed a weird and indescribable excitement on their face. Yeezy, we found something unbelievable. You probably had no internet access while in the Warriors department. The internet has gone crazy. Lil Zhen's face flushed red with excitement. Come have a look. Having said that, he clicked on a video on the computer. The video was of high quality, showing a man facing off a wolf. Unfortunately, that man was wearing a mask, obstructing his face from a clear view. This video is a teaser uploaded by Legend of the Heroine. When they were filming, they ran into a wolf. Luckily for them, one of the actors stepped out and saved the crew from harm. Potato's eyes lit up. Imagine the situation on the scene. It must be exhilarating. Martial arts expert. That man is a martial arts expert, Shang exclaimed. The experts are hidden amongst us. Yi Lingchen sat in front of the computer and went on Weibo. The news was released 3 days ago, yet it remained on Weibo's top news for 3 days straight without being replaced. It had over 100,000 comments. I have a PhD in computer science. I'll use both my top and bottom head as a guarantee that this had no signs of being photoshopped. I have a PhD in biology. Based on the size of the wolf in that footage, even if that's not an alpha wolf, it's close enough. Its combat prowess will outmatch 10 adults. Ah, this world has real kung fu. Why was the face hidden? My sixth sense tells me that he is a handsome guy. I've orgasmed with his face hidden. If he reveals his face, I will ascend to heaven. Have you guys seen Xiao Feifei? She should be nearby during that time. Hero saving a damsel in distress. From her looks, I can tell that she had probably fallen. Martial arts was something everyone was deeply passionate about that only existed in their imaginations. However, when it was displayed for all to see, it triggered an unimaginable uproar. Of course, apart from those comments, there were also many shit posters. Of course that's fake. A wolf's strength, bite force, and dexterity is not something a human can compare with. There's a limit to bullshitting. Legend of the Heroine is obviously hyping this up. Shameless. Only a retard will believe this. Kung Fu? I think you've read too many novels. These people must be ignorant. Why can't Kung Fu be real? Yeezy here knows it. If it were in the past, Potato would not have believed it that easily. However, after witnessing Yi Lingchen's duel during martial training, he had no doubts about the existence of Kung Fu. Lil, Zhen and Shang nodded their heads in agreement as well. Yeezy, can you tell what type of Kung Fu is that person in the video using? How is he compared to you? Lil, Zhen asked out of curiosity. Yi Lingchen shook his head and gave a simple reply. I just have some slightly better physique. How can I compare to that? I suppose so, Lil, Zhen nodded. Martial arts experts were far too distant from the average human, added to his lack of comprehension of how strong Sun Wei was. Lil, Zhen could not objectively determine Yi Lingchen's strength. It's 8:30 p.m. Legend of the Heroine's third chapter is about to start. Zhang's face was filled with anticipation. I heard the third chapter is when the ruthless masked guy that wrestled the wolf with his bare hands makes his first appearance. Yi Lingchen looked at the excitable trio and rubbed his nose. Luckily he kept his face hidden during filming, otherwise his daily life would have been a lot more interesting. At that same moment, countless viewers from all over the country were sitting in front of their TV, waiting. Their curiosity piqued, dying to know more about the masked man. Halfway through the third chapter, Xiao Feifei fell down the cliff. The masked man was shown running along the cliff wall, flying to her rescue. What was originally a small dirt mound turned into a towering cliff. As Yi Lingchen did not use any equipment when they were filming, the scene looked all the more realistic. Running on walls, gliding through the air. That entrance stunned many audiences. The movements are smooth and connected. That person is definitely trained. Wow, so handsome, I can't take it anymore. I've decided to be his diehard fan from now on. I want to see what he looks like without the mask. Are there any spoilers? Does he reveal his face in the end? Something's off. I'm here to watch Xiao Feifei. Why would I end up staring at a masked man? This masked man is weirdly irresistible. My attention would always unconsciously fall onto him. WTF. He's in the same scene with Xiao Feifei. But I somehow felt that Xiao Feifei seemed blurred and the scene is focused on him instead? Although he has a mask over his face, his entire body seems to be captivating. Is this the cameraman's problem? Or there's something wrong with my eyes? Very quickly, a top search titled, "Something's Wrong with the Masked Man," appeared on Weibo. Fuck. So I'm not the only one facing this issue. At least I can be at ease now. For a moment there I thought I was developing interest in a guy. Something is wrong with the masked man. If he could trigger such a response with his face hidden, can you imagine if he showed his face? He's definitely in the best actor class. His acting skills are off the charts. Each movement felt perfectly harmonized with the character in the TV series, and he could even steal the spotlight from Xiao Feifei. At that same moment, Li Tai was at the TV station waiting anxiously for the audience measurement results. Right at that moment, a slightly chubby middle-aged man walked out. He sported a small tuft of beard, walked over smiling with shades on. Li Tai went up to welcome him eagerly. "Boss Zheng, how's the audience measurement?" The audience measurement statistics after screening could be checked on any phone. But Li Tai grew impatient and went directly to the TV station to get the real-time data instead. "Ha ha ha, old Li, you've struck gold this time," Zheng Bing laughed. "Just before I came out, the audience measurement had just passed 2. It passed 2? Li Tai was stunned, his face glowing. "Really?" "Absolutely, furthermore, it's going up relatively quickly. Even now it's still climbing," Zheng Bing nodded in confirmation. "Old Li, congratulations on making a big step forward." Huff. Li Tai let out a deep long breath of relief. Now that the anxiety had passed, it was replaced with a sense of uncontainable excitement. In this era where the internet is readily available, everyone was on their computers and phones. Those who would still watch TV were declining, hence an audience measurement of 2 was already a commendable achievement. Li Tai's record was only 1.6. Yi. Why didn't let me down? Yesterday the audience measurement was only at 1.2. It's obvious that most of the viewers are here to watch him, Li Tai thought to himself. The main factor in their popularity boost was because of that video of him fighting a wolf with his bare hands. Next were his acting skills that maintained the popularity of the show. It could be said that he carried the entire TV series by himself. "Old Li, this. Why, just what kind of a person is he? You should know, right?" Zheng Bing tried to find out more information. "He prefers to stay anonymous. It's not convenient for me to expose him." "Not even to me?" Zheng Bing frowned slightly. "Old Li, you know I'm not a blabbermouth." Now that his audience measurements are somewhat guaranteed, our station's plans to invite him to join our variety show. Li Tai laughed bitterly as he shook his head. "Boss Zheng, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but I don't have the guts to." "You're scared? He has some big shots backing him?" Zheng Bing was surprised. Li Tai's expression was serious as he pointed at the sky, muttering, "As big as the sky." Ring, ring, ring. In the male dormitory, Yi Lingchen picked up his phone. "Hello, Sister Feifei." "Lingchen, how does being a celebrity feel?" Xiao Feifei's voice could be heard over the phone, carrying with it a tiny hint of envy. "You're even more popular than me now." "Sister Feifei, please don't make fun of me. I'm nothing compared to you," Yi Lingchen replied with a smile. Weibo and Tieba are flooded with topics about you right now. From wrestling a wolf, saving a damsel, all the way to your astonishing acting skills. They're praising you into the clouds. Xiao Feifei continued, are you sure you're not going to join the entertainment industry? If you reveal your identity now, your value will skyrocket. Using this current hype and a few good scripts, you will reach the top with ease. Currently I have no such intention. Then would you like me to introduce you to some beauties in the entertainment field? They are all pestering me about why in all desperateness, Xiao Feifei laughed. Please don't. Oh right, I have to thank you for that past incident. Xiao Feifei paused, then hesitated for a moment before asking, in the future, will you still come give me a massage? Sister Feifei, rest assured. I'll be right there when you call. On the other side of the phone, Xiao Feifei finally relaxed. An intoxicating smile appeared on her face. Are you free this weekend? Yi Lingchen thought about it, then quickly agreed as he was rather free for the time being. The next day, Yi Lingchen started his first ever class since he entered university. He majored in Chinese literature, and the first class was China's contemporary literature. An almost middle-aged female teacher. After some simple introductions, they started to get on topic. What contemporary literature titles do you know of? Raise your hand and answer. Very quickly, someone raised their hand to answer. That was their first class, and everyone was burning with passion. Teacher, Pride and Prejudice, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Les Miserables. Teacher, there's also Gone with the Wind. Not bad, those you mentioned are all widely known. However, did you all notice one thing they all had in common? The teacher followed with another question. One thing in common? Everyone was exchanging glances, similarly speechless. All these works originated from different countries and authors. Even their historical backgrounds were vastly different. How could there be something in common? Yi Lingchen sat in an inconspicuous corner. He calmly answered, these are all non-Chinese works. That's right. The teacher looked over at Yi Lingchen. This student is exactly on point. The rest of the class finally realized, as though waking from a dream, they all felt a slight sense of failure. They slowly came to realize that after naming so many literary works, none of them were from China. Our great country had such a long history, with such deep literary foundations. How is it that we did not produce a single work that could be recognized out of the country? Language is the foundation of a country, and literature is the presentation of a country's foundation. Via literature, we can showcase the foundation of our country to the world. However, in the past centuries, we failed to produce even one piece of literary work that is acknowledged by the world. This is something we should reflect upon. I dream to see such a day come to pass. With that, she stood on the podium and bowed towards the students. Yi Lingchen felt a hint of sadness that crept into his heart. China was vast and full of resources. Its population size even ranked amongst the largest in the world. Yet in terms of literature, it was this far behind. He could not help but recall the four great literary works of China. Journey to the West was translated into The Monkey's Story. Water Margin was translated to the story of 105 men and 3 women. The Romance of the Three Kingdoms was instead translated to The History of Three Kingdoms. Lastly, Dream of the Red Chamber was translated to Dreams Within a Red House. These names were all a joke, but at the same time, it was also humiliating. Chinese culture was not at all accepted by foreign countries. No matter the product, it was unable to convince foreigners to accept them. If there was such a chance, he would want the foreigners to change the way they look at China. To Yi Lingchen, that was not difficult. Ding! A clear sound came from within Yi Lingchen's head. Prodigy System Mission tab unlocked. Prodigy's appearance, who could compare? Exclusive mainstream mission. Make known the name of the Prodigy across the world. Trial mission. Exclusive compulsory mission. Create a classic literary work within a month and gain 100,000 popularity rating. Mission failure. Prodigy system will be revoked. Mission success. Unlock knowledge level up ability. PS. Popularity increment is tied to players' overall fame, exposure, achievement, respect, credibility, and reputation. Fuck? Yi Lingchen almost screamed out loud within the class. This system had missions?